Welcome to Lullaby Stories, a gentle haven where the soft whispers of the past and the quiet beauty of history carry you into calm, peaceful moments. Sit back, relax, and let each story unfold around you like a soothing breeze. If you find comfort and peace in these tales, your like and subscribe warmly help keep this serene journey alive, inviting more gentle stories into the world.
A quiet day in the great library of Baghdad during the Abbasid era. Chapter 1. Morning light through the arched windows. You wake slowly, gently, as the first rays of dawn filter through the magnificent arched windows of the great library of Baghdad. The year is 850 CE, during the golden reign of the Abbasid Caliphate, and you find yourself in the most wondrous place of learning the world has ever known. The morning light, soft and golden, streams through the intricate geometric patterns carved into the stone latticework. These mashrabiyah screens, delicate as lace, were crafted by master artisans from Isfahan, their hands guided by centuries of tradition. The light dances and shifts, creating moving patterns of amber and honey across the marble floors. You breathe deeply, slowly, taking in the familiar sense of this sacred space. The air carries the gentle fragrance of sandalwood incense, burning quietly in small brass censers placed throughout the library. This precious wood, brought by caravans from distant India, fills the morning air with its warm, woody aroma that seems to embrace your very soul. The floors beneath your feet are made of the finest marble, quarried from the mountains of Proconnesus, the same stone that graced the palaces of Constantinople. The marble feels cool against your bare feet as you move slowly, peacefully through the great hall. Its surface, polished to mirror smoothness by generations of craftsmen, reflects the dancing light from above, creating an ocean of gentle luminescence. You pause and listen to the profound silence of early morning. In a few hours, this space will hum with the quiet conversations of scholars, the soft scratching of quills on parchment, and the gentle rustling of countless manuscripts. But now, in these precious moments before dawn fully breaks, the library belongs to the realm of dreams and contemplation. The architecture around you tells the story of an empire at its zenith. These walls, built during the reign of Caliph al-Mamun, stretch upward into soaring vaulted ceilings decorated with muqarnas, those honeycomb-like decorative elements that seem to capture and hold the morning light. Each muqarna, carefully carved from plaster and painted in subtle shades of blue and gold, represents a prayer, a hope, a dream for the preservation of all human knowledge. You walk slowly, reverently, past the great wooden shelves that line the walls. These shelves, crafted from cedar wood imported from the mountains of Lebanon, hold treasures beyond imagination. Here rest the works of Aristotle and Plato, translated from Greek into Arabic by teams of dedicated scholars. There, carefully preserved behind glass panels, lie the mathematical treatises of Al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra, his calculations still fresh on papyrus, made from reeds that grew along the life-giving Nile. The morning air stirs gently, carrying with it the faint sound of the call to Fajr prayer, echoing from the nearby mosque. The muezzin's voice, melodious and pure, drifts through the open windows like a lullaby. You do not need to leave this sanctuary to pray, for this entire library is itself a form of worship, a celebration of the divine gift of knowledge and understanding. You notice how the light continues to change, slowly, gradually, as the sun rises higher over the city of Baghdad. What began as pale gold now deepens into rich amber, painting the white walls with warmth. The geometric patterns on the floor, inlaid with precious lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, begin to glow like scattered sapphires. Moving toward one of the great arched windows, you gaze out at the awakening city, Baghdad, the round city, Madinat al-Salam, the city of peace, stretches before you in all directions. From this elevated position in the library, you can see the gentle curve of the Tigris River, its waters reflecting the morning sky like a ribbon of silk. Palm trees line the riverbanks, their fronds moving softly in the morning breeze, creating a gentle susurrus that mingles with the distant sounds of the city coming to life. The window frame, carved from a single piece of Lebanese cedar, bears intricate calligraphy in the elegant Kufic script. The words, verses from the Quran about the importance of seeking knowledge, seem to shimmer in the morning light. And say, "My Lord, increase me in knowledge," the inscription reads, a daily reminder of the sacred mission of this great institution. You rest your hand gently on the cool stone windowsill, feeling its smooth texture beneath your palm. This stone, brought from quarries near Samarra, has been worn smooth by countless hands over the decades, each touch a connection to the thousands of scholars, scribes, and seekers who have stood in this very spot, gazing out at the same river, the same sky, the same eternal quest for understanding. The morning breeze carries new scents through the window, the fresh smell of the Tigris, mixed with the aroma of jasmine flowers blooming in the library's courtyard garden. These jasmine plants, originally from Persia, were carefully tended by the library's gardeners, their white flowers releasing their perfume most strongly in the cool hours of dawn. You turn slowly, peacefully, back toward the interior of the library, allowing your eyes to adjust once again to the gentle indoor light. The great hall stretches before you, a cathedral of knowledge, its dimensions carefully calculated according to the mathematical principles preserved in the very books it houses. The ratio of length to width follows the golden proportion discovered by ancient Greek mathematicians, creating a space that feels naturally harmonious, balanced, perfect for contemplation. The silence is not empty, but full, pregnant with the accumulated wisdom of ages. You can almost hear the whispered conversations of long-departed scholars, their voices echoing softly from the curved walls and soaring ceilings. Here walked Al-Kindi, the first great Islamic philosopher, his footsteps still echoing on these marble floors. There sat the Banu Musa brothers, those ingenious inventors whose mechanical devices seemed to work by magic, their minds always turning, always creating, always seeking new solutions to ancient problems. You move deeper into the library, your steps naturally slowing, becoming more contemplative with each passing moment. The great central dome, inspired by the architectural traditions of Sassanid Persia, rises above you like the vault of heaven itself. Its interior surface, covered in a mosaic of tiny mirrors, catches and multiplies the morning light, sending gentle sparkles dancing across the walls and floors like fallen stars. Along the walls, you notice the small alcoves, each one designed as a private study space for serious scholars. These alcoves, called kutab in Arabic, are furnished with low wooden desks, their surfaces polished smooth by years of use. Soft carpets, woven in the workshops of Isfahan and Kashan, cover the floors, their intricate patterns telling stories of gardens, rivers, and paradise itself. The carpets beneath your feet tell their own stories. This one, with its deep blue background and flowing palmette designs, was created in the workshops of Herat, where master weavers spent months, sometimes years, creating each piece by hand. The deep blue comes from indigo, brought by merchants from distant India, while the golden threads are silk from the cocoons of worms fed on mulberry leaves in the orchards of Samarkand. You pause beside one of the great reading lecterns, its surface angled perfectly to catch the morning light. These lecterns, carved from single pieces of walnut wood, were designed by master craftsmen who understood both the needs of scholars and the sacred nature of the books they would hold. The wood, brought from the forests of Anatolia, still bears the faint scent of the mountains where it grew, a reminder of the natural world from which all knowledge ultimately springs. The morning light continues its slow dance across the library's interior, and you find yourself drawn to one of the smaller side chambers, a room dedicated to the preservation of the most precious manuscripts. Here, the light is softer, filtered through screens of the finest silk, dyed the color of sunrise with saffron from the fields of Kashmir. This preservation room represents one of the great innovations of the House of Wisdom, the understanding that knowledge must be protected, not just from fire and flood, but from the gentle degradation of time itself. The walls are lined with cedar, its natural oils helping to repel insects, while small dishes of frankincense, burning continuously, create an atmosphere that naturally preserves the delicate parchment and papyrus of ancient texts. You breathe in the sacred atmosphere of this inner sanctum, where the most precious works of human civilization rest in perfect climate, protected from the harsh desert sun and the occasional dampness that rises from the Tigris. The temperature here remains constant, maintained by an ingenious system of wind catchers, those tall towers that capture the desert breezes and channel them through underground chambers, cooling and purifying the air before it enters this sacred space. The manuscripts here, you notice, are stored in beautiful wooden boxes, each one crafted from a different precious wood: sandalwood from India, rosewood from Ceylon, ebony from Africa. Each box chosen not just for its beauty, but for the natural properties of its wood, properties that help preserve the treasures within. One box, made from olive wood from the groves of Syria, holds the complete works of Galen, the great physician whose understanding of the human body guided healers for centuries. Another, crafted from cedar of Lebanon, contains the astronomical observations of Ptolemy, those careful measurements of star positions that allowed navigators to cross vast oceans and return home safely. The morning light, now stronger and warmer, streams through a small circular window high above, creating a perfect circle of golden radiance on the floor. This window, designed according to the precise calculations of Islamic astronomers, is positioned to allow the sun's rays to illuminate different parts of the room throughout the year, marking the passage of seasons with the slow movement of light and shadow. You find yourself drawn to sit in this circle of light, feeling its warmth on your face and hands. The marble floor beneath you, though cool to the touch, begins to warm slowly in the morning sun, creating a perfect balance of temperatures that invites deep contemplation and peaceful rest. From your position on the floor, you can see the intricate details of the room's decoration more clearly. The walls, painted in soft earth tones that echo the colors of the desert and the river, are decorated with delicate arabesque patterns that seem to flow and dance in the shifting light. These patterns, inspired by the mathematical principles of infinite tessellation, create the sense of movement and harmony that calms the mind and soothes the spirit. The ceiling above, painted the deep blue of a desert night, is decorated with golden stars positioned according to the actual star maps created by Islamic astronomers. Each star represents a real celestial body, its position calculated with mathematical precision, transforming this room into a terrestrial reflection of the cosmic order that governs all existence. You close your eyes, allowing the sounds and sensations of this sacred morning to wash over you. The distant sound of water flowing through the library's sophisticated irrigation system creates a gentle background music that seems to synchronize with your breathing. This water, drawn from the Tigris through a network of carefully engineered channels, not only nourishes the gardens and courtyards, but provides the humidity necessary to preserve the precious manuscripts. The sound of water is joined by another gentle melody, the soft cooing of doves that nest in the library's towers. These doves, symbols of peace in Islamic tradition, have made their home among the carved stone decorations that crown the building. Their soft voices, rising and falling like a natural lullaby, create a soundtrack of serenity that enhances the meditative atmosphere of this holy place. Opening your eyes again, you notice how the quality of light has continued to evolve. What began as the pale gold of early dawn has now become the warm amber of full morning. And with this change comes a subtle shift in the atmosphere of the library itself. The building seems to stretch and sigh, like a great creature awakening from peaceful slumber, ready to embrace another day of learning and discovery. You rise slowly, gracefully, from your position in the circle of light, and begin to walk toward another section of the great library. Your movements are unhurried, contemplative, like those of a pilgrim walking through a sacred landscape. Each step reveals new wonders, new details that speak to the incredible care and devotion that went into creating this monument to human knowledge. The section you approach is dedicated to the natural sciences, and here the morning light reveals treasures that seem to glow with inner fire. Manuscripts on astronomy written by al-Battani, whose observations corrected errors in Ptolemy's calculations, rest beside works on optics by Ibn al-Haytham, the great scientist whose experiments with light and vision laid the foundation for all future understanding of how we see and perceive the world. The bindings of these books, crafted from leather prepared in the tanneries of Cordova, are decorated with geometric patterns pressed into the hide while it was still warm and supple. Gold leaf, applied with brushes made from the finest sable hair, highlights the raised decorations, creating books that are themselves works of art, objects of beauty worthy of the wisdom they contain. You pause before a display case containing what might be the library's greatest treasure, a complete manuscript of Euclid's Elements, translated from Greek into Arabic by Ishaq ibn Hunayn, and illustrated with geometric diagrams drawn with mathematical precision, using instruments crafted by the finest toolmakers of Damascus. The diagrams, drawn in inks made from minerals ground to powder and mixed with gum arabic from acacia trees, seem to pulse with life in the morning light. Perfect circles, drawn with compasses made from Damascus steel, intersect with straight lines ruled with ivory straightedges, creating patterns that reveal the hidden mathematical relationships that govern all of creation. Beside Euclid's work rests another treasure, the Almagest of Ptolemy. But this is no ordinary copy. This manuscript includes marginal notes and corrections by al-Battani himself, his careful observations recorded in the elegant Naskh script that he perfected during his years of study. These handwritten annotations, made in ink mixed with powdered pearl to give it a subtle luminescence, represent centuries of accumulated astronomical knowledge. The morning air stirs gently through the library, carried by the ingenious ventilation system designed by the Banu Musa brothers. Cool air, drawn from underground chambers and scented with rosewater from Damascus, flows invisibly through hidden channels in the walls, creating perfect conditions for both human comfort and manuscript preservation. You breathe deeply of this purified air, feeling it fill your lungs with a sense of peace and clarity. The rosewater, distilled from petals gathered in the gardens of Ghouta near Damascus, adds a subtle floral note that enhances the already sacred atmosphere of this place. This rosewater, prepared according to techniques developed by Islamic alchemists, was believed not only to please the senses, but to have beneficial effects on the mind and spirit. Moving toward another section of the library, you find yourself in the area dedicated to medicine and healing arts. Here, the morning light illuminates manuscripts that contain the accumulated medical knowledge of Greek, Persian, Indian, and Arab physicians. The Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina, written in his clear, precise hand, rests beside translations of Hippocrates and Galen, creating a comprehensive medical library that serves healers throughout the Islamic world. These medical texts, you notice, are bound in a special leather treated with extracts from myrrh and frankincense, substances known for their preservative and purifying properties. The covers, tooled with patterns of intertwining vines and flowers, symbols of life and growth, reflect the healing mission of the knowledge contained within. The morning light, streaming through the windows, reveals another wonder: the careful organization of the library's collections according to a sophisticated classification system developed by the library's first directors. Each section is marked with carved wooden plaques, their Arabic calligraphy executed in the flowing Thuluth script that transforms letters into art. Philosophy rests beside theology, mathematics beside astronomy, medicine beside natural history, each field of knowledge finding its proper place in this vast cosmos of learning. The classification system, based on principles of logic derived from Aristotle but refined by Islamic scholars, ensures that researchers can navigate this ocean of knowledge with ease and precision. You pause in your exploration to appreciate one of the library's most innovative features: the reading carrels built into alcoves along the walls. Each carrel, designed for individual study, is equipped with everything a scholar might need: a slanted writing surface, storage compartments for personal materials, and even a small oil lamp for working during the shorter days of winter. The oil lamps, crafted from brass in the workshops of Mosul, burn olive oil imported from Syria and Palestine. The gentle light they provide, warm and steady, is perfect for reading and copying manuscripts without causing eye strain. Even now, in the full light of morning, several lamps burn softly, their flames dancing gently in the moving air, creating an atmosphere of scholarly devotion that transcends the passage of time. Seated in one of these carrels, almost invisible in the morning shadows, an elderly scholar works quietly on a translation. His beard, white as the pages before him, moves slightly as he whispers Arabic words, testing their sound and meaning as he transforms a Greek philosophical text into the language of the Islamic world. His hands, steady despite his age, hold a reed pen with the confidence that comes from decades of careful practice. The scholar's presence adds a living dimension to the morning quiet of the library. His breathing, slow and regular, his occasional quiet murmurs as he searches for the perfect word, the soft scratch of his pen on parchment, all contribute to the symphony of scholarly pursuit that defines this sacred space. You watch for a moment as he dips his pen into a small crystal inkwell, the ink within made from oak galls and iron, mixed with gum arabic to create a fluid that flows smoothly, but dries to a permanent black that will endure for centuries. This ink, prepared according to formulas perfected by generations of scribes, represents one of the many small but crucial innovations that make the preservation of knowledge possible. The morning continues its slow progression, and you find yourself drawn toward the eastern wing of the library, where the collection of Persian manuscripts is housed. Here, the morning light, filtered through screens decorated with patterns inspired by Persian garden design, takes on a softer, more contemplative quality. The Persian collection includes works of poetry that seem to sing even in silence, epic tales like the Shahnameh of Ferdowsi, with its stories of heroes and kings, love and sacrifice, triumph and tragedy. These manuscripts, copied by calligraphers whose skills approached the divine, transform words into visual music, each letter carefully formed and positioned to create pages of transcendent beauty. The paper on which these Persian works are written represents another technological marvel of the Islamic world. Made from cotton and linen fibers, beaten to pulp and formed into sheets using techniques learned from Chinese papermakers. This paper is stronger and more durable than papyrus, yet smoother and more receptive to ink than parchment. The process of papermaking, introduced to the Islamic world after the Battle of Talis in 751 CE, revolutionized the preservation and dissemination of knowledge. Here in the library's workshop, located in a separate building to protect the manuscripts from fire, craftsmen continue this ancient art, creating the blank pages on which future scholars will record their discoveries. You can almost hear the distant sounds of the paper-making workshop, the gentle splash of water in the vats where fiber is prepared, the soft thud of hammers beating cloth into pulp, the whispered conversations of craftsmen who take pride in creating the foundation upon which all written knowledge depends. The morning light reveals another section of the Persian collection, manuscripts on Sufism and mystical poetry that seem to glow with inner spiritual fire. These works, by authors like Al-Hallaj and Rumi, explore the deepest mysteries of existence and the soul's journey toward divine union. Their words, copied with reverent care by scribes who understood their sacred nature, transform the act of reading into a form of meditation and prayer. Beside these mystical works rest more practical texts, treatises on agriculture by Persian farmers who developed sophisticated irrigation techniques, works on astronomy by Persian mathematicians who refined the astrolabe and other instruments of celestial observation, medical texts by Persian physicians who combined Greek theoretical knowledge with practical experience gained through years of healing practice. The morning air, now warmed by the strengthening sun, carries new scents through the library. The breakfast preparations in the nearby kitchen, where the library staff will soon gather for their morning meal, add the aroma of freshly baked bread to the existing symphony of fragrances. This bread, made from wheat grown in the fertile fields along the Euphrates, represents the same nourishment for the body that the library's books provide for the mind and spirit. You find yourself approaching the library's central courtyard, a garden paradise that serves as the heart of this great institution. The morning light, now streaming almost horizontally through the covered walkways that surround the courtyard, creates a pattern of light and shadow that changes slowly, continuously, like a sundial marking the passage of time through beauty rather than numbers. The courtyard garden, designed according to the Persian Chahar Bagh tradition, is divided into 4 quadrants by streams of clear water flowing from a central fountain. These streams, fed by the same hydraulic system that ventilates the library, represent the 4 rivers of paradise described in the Quran, transforming this earthly space into a reflection of divine order. Each quadrant of the garden contains different plants, chosen not only for their beauty, but for their symbolic meaning and practical uses. Roses, symbols of divine beauty and prophetic tradition, bloom in carefully tended beds, their petals destined to become the rose water used throughout the library. Jasmine, its white flowers releasing their perfume most strongly at night, represents purity and spiritual awakening. Orange trees, brought from distant Andalusia, provide both beauty and practical benefit, their blossoms perfuming the air while their fruit nourishes the body. These trees, pomegranate trees, their red fruit symbols of learning and wisdom in Islamic tradition, provide shade for the scholars who come to the garden for rest and contemplation. The pomegranate, with its numerous seeds, represents the countless individual insights that together create the vast treasure house of human knowledge. The morning light, dancing on the water of the central fountain, creates patterns that seem to mirror the geometric designs that decorate the library's walls and ceilings. This fountain, its jets carefully calculated to provide the perfect sound of falling water, serves not only as decoration, but as a source of humidity that helps preserve the manuscripts housed in the surrounding buildings. You seat yourself on the rim of the fountain, feeling the cool marble beneath you and the gentle spray of water on your hands and face. The water, drawn from deep wells that tap into the same aquifers that have sustained Baghdad since its founding, is clear and pure, filtered through layers of sand and gravel laid down over countless centuries. From your position by the fountain, you can see into several of the study alcoves that open onto the courtyard. In one, a young student sits cross-legged on a carpet, studying a manuscript on arithmetic, his lips moving silently as he works through mathematical problems. His dedication, visible in his focused concentration, represents the same spirit of inquiry that drives all true learning. In another alcove, an older scholar instructs a small group of students in the principles of logic. His voice too quiet to hear, but his gestures clear and purposeful. These informal teaching sessions, taking place in the comfortable intimacy of the garden setting, represent one of the library's most important functions, not just preserving knowledge, but passing it on to new generations of scholars. The students, young men from across the Islamic world, sit with the respectful attention that their teachers deserve. Some take notes on small pieces of paper, while others simply listen, knowing that the most important knowledge must be absorbed not just by the mind, but by the heart and soul. The morning progresses, and you notice how the changing angle of the sun transforms the garden's appearance moment by moment. Shadows that were long and dramatic an hour ago have now shortened and softened, while areas that were in cool shade are beginning to warm in the strengthening light. A gentle breeze, the morning wind that rises with the sun, stirs the leaves of the orange trees and carries their fragrance throughout the courtyard. This natural ventilation, working in harmony with the library's engineered air circulation system, ensures that the garden remains comfortable throughout the year, a place where scholars can find rest and inspiration in equal measure. You close your eyes, allowing the sounds of the garden to wash over you. Water falling gently into the fountain basin, leaves rustling in the morning breeze, the distant murmur of scholarly conversation, the soft scratch of pen on paper, all combine to create a symphony of intellectual and spiritual peace. Birds, attracted by the water and the fruit trees, add their voices to this natural music. Nightingales, though normally creatures of twilight and dawn, occasionally venture out in the protected environment of the garden, their complex songs weaving through the morning air like audible poetry. Doves, symbols of peace in all traditions, nest in the carved stonework of the surrounding arcades, their gentle cooing a constant background to the garden's activities. These birds, protected by the library's staff, serve as living reminders of the peaceful mission of this great institution. Opening your eyes again, you notice that the morning light has continued its transformation. The pale gold of early dawn has given way to the warm amber of mid-morning, and soon the sun will climb high enough to fill the garden with the brilliant light of full day. But for now, in these precious transitional moments, the garden exists in a state of perfect balance between night and day, shadow and light, rest and activity. You rise from your seat by the fountain, feeling refreshed and renewed by your time in this paradise of learning. The morning has passed almost without your notice, lost in contemplation and wonder at the treasures that surround you. But you sense that this is only the beginning, that the day holds many more discoveries and moments of quiet revelation. As you prepare to explore more of the library's wonders, you take one last look around the garden, memorizing its beauty and serenity. The roses, now fully open in the morning warmth, seem to glow with inner fire. The orange blossoms, releasing their perfume to attract the bees that will ensure next year's harvest, represent the same process of pollination and growth that allows knowledge to flourish and reproduce. The fountain continues its eternal song, a liquid lullaby that speaks of permanence and change, of the flowing nature of time and the enduring power of wisdom. The water, rising and falling in endless cycles, mirrors the rhythms of learning itself, the constant circulation of ideas that keeps knowledge alive and growing. The morning sun, now approaching its zenith, bathes the entire courtyard in warm, golden light. The geometric patterns in the marble paving stones, laid out according to mathematical principles preserved in the library's own collection, create a mandala of knowledge beneath your feet, transforming every step into a meditation on the underlying order of the universe. You move slowly, peacefully, toward the covered walkway that will lead you back into the library proper, ready to continue your exploration of this treasure house of human wisdom. The morning has been a gentle awakening, a slow emergence from the realm of dreams into the bright world of conscious learning, and you feel perfectly prepared for whatever wonders the rest of the day may bring. The arched doorway that leads back into the library frames a view of the great reading hall, where scholars are now beginning to gather for the day's work. Their quiet conversations, conducted in the respectful whispers appropriate to such a sacred space, drift toward you on the morning breeze, promising new discoveries and insights to come. As you cross the threshold from garden to library, from the natural world to the world of human knowledge, you feel a sense of completion and anticipation combined. The morning has been perfect in its gentle unfolding, its slow revelation of beauty and wisdom, and you sense that it has prepared you perfectly for the deeper contemplations that lie ahead. The transition from the bright garden to the softer interior light requires a moment of adjustment, and in that moment of visual adaptation, you become acutely aware of the profound silence that underlies all the gentle sounds of scholarly activity. This silence, deeper than mere absence of sound, is the silence of deep contemplation, of minds focused entirely on the pursuit of truth and understanding. And as your eyes adjust to the interior light, as the familiar sights and sounds and scents of the great library envelop you once again, you feel your breathing slow, your pulse gentle, your mind settle into the perfect peace that comes from being exactly where you belong, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of ages, ready to receive whatever gifts of knowledge the day may offer. Your eyelids grow heavy as the morning light continues its slow dance across the marble floors, the gentle sounds of the library creating a natural lullaby, and you drift peacefully into a state of deep, contemplative rest. Chapter 2: The Whisper of Scholars Among Endless Manuscripts. You awaken slowly, gently, from your peaceful morning rest to find yourself in a different part of the great library of Baghdad, The sun has moved higher in the sky, casting longer beams of golden light through the great arched windows, and the library has begun to fill with the quiet energy of scholarly activity. All around you, like gentle waves lapping at a peaceful shore, you hear the whispered conversations of scholars and students. Their voices, soft and respectful, blend together into a harmonious murmur that seems to rise and fall like distant music. The Arabic language, flowing from their lips in its various dialects, creates a symphony of human communication that has been echoing through these halls for generations. You find yourself in the manuscript hall, the heart of the library's vast collection. Here, stretching as far as your eyes can see, wooden shelves rise toward the high vaulted ceiling, their surfaces lined with countless volumes bound in leather, cloth, and precious materials. The sight is overwhelming, yet profoundly peaceful, like standing at the shore of an ocean of knowledge. The morning light, filtering through windows designed by master architects from Damascus, illuminates the spines of thousands of books. Each volume represents years, sometimes decades, of human thought and discovery. Greek philosophy, translated into Arabic by Christian scholars in Baghdad. Persian poetry, copied by calligraphers whose skills approach the divine. Mathematical treatises that would revolutionize human understanding of the cosmos. Medical texts that would save countless lives. All rest here in perfect harmony. You move slowly, reverently, between the towering shelves, your bare feet silent on the thick Persian carpets that protect the precious wooden floors. These carpets, woven in the workshops of Isfahan and Tabriz, display garden scenes that transform the floor into a meadow of flowers and flowing steams, creating the illusion of walking through paradise itself. As you walk, you become aware of the presence of other souls sharing this sacred space with you. Here, seated at a low wooden table inlaid with mother of pearl, an elderly scholar from Cordoba examines a manuscript on astronomy. His weathered hands, stained with decades of ink, turn the pages with infinite care, his eyes moving across the elegant Arabic script with the practiced ease of a lifetime devoted to learning. The scholar wears the traditional white robe of his profession, its simple cut and pure color reflecting the clarity of mind required for serious study. Around his shoulders rests a light woolen cloak, dyed the deep blue of the night sky, a color achieved using indigo brought by merchants from distant India. His turban, wound in the style favored by scholars from Al-Andalus, is white as fresh snow, symbolizing the purity of knowledge he seeks. You pause near his table, not disturbing his concentration, but close enough to appreciate the profound focus with which he studies. His breathing is slow and regular, synchronized with the rhythm of his reading, as if his very life force flows in harmony with the ancient wisdom before him. Occasionally, he makes a small note in the margin, using a reed pen carved from bamboo and ink mixed with powdered pearls to give it a subtle luminescence. The manuscript he studies, you notice, is a copy of the Zij al-Sabi by al-Battani, the great astronomer whose observations corrected errors that had persisted in Ptolemy's calculations for centuries. The pages, made from the finest parchment prepared in the workshops of Baghdad, bear diagrams of celestial movements drawn with mathematical precision using instruments crafted by the master toolmakers of Damascus. Moving deeper into the manuscript hall, you encounter other scholars, each absorbed in their own particular quest for knowledge. A young student from Samarkand sits cross-legged on a silk cushion, studying a translation of Aristotle's Metaphysics, his lips moving silently as he works through the complex philosophical arguments. His youth is evident in the intensity of his concentration, the eager way he leans forward over the text, the careful notes he takes on a piece of Chinese paper using a pen made from a goose feather. Nearby, two scholars engage in quiet debate over the interpretation of a passage in Galen's medical writings. Their conversation, conducted in whispers out of respect for the sacred silence of the library, represents the same tradition of scholarly discourse that has flourished in Baghdad since the city's founding. One scholar, his gray beard marking him as a master of his field, gestures gently toward the text, while his younger colleague, a physician newly arrived from Cairo, offers a different perspective based on his practical experience treating patients. The medical text they discuss, bound in leather treated with myrrh and frankincense to prevent decay, contains detailed anatomical drawings copied from Greek originals, but enhanced with observations made by Islamic physicians. These illustrations, drawn with inks made from minerals ground to powder and mixed with gum arabic, represent centuries of accumulated medical knowledge, each line carefully placed to preserve life-saving information for future generations. You continue your slow journey through the manuscript hall, allowing the quiet energy of scholarly pursuit to flow around you like a gentle stream. The sounds of turning pages, the soft scratch of pens on parchment, the whispered exchanges between teacher and student, all combine to create an atmosphere of profound intellectual peace. The shelves around you hold treasures from across the known world. Here, in a section dedicated to natural philosophy, rest the works of Al-Kindi, the first great Islamic philosopher, whose synthesis of Aristotelian logic and Islamic theology opened new pathways for human understanding. His manuscripts, copied in the clear Naskh script preferred by serious scholars, explore questions that touch the very foundations of existence and knowledge. Beside Al-Kindi's works, you find the mathematical treatises of Al-Khwarizmi, the Persian scholar whose development of algebra revolutionized mathematical thinking throughout the world. His book, Kitab al-Jabr wa Muqabala, from which the word algebra derives, sits bound in dark green leather tooled with geometric patterns that themselves illustrate mathematical principles. The binding, created in the workshops of Baghdad's finest craftsmen, represents another art form in itself. The leather, prepared using techniques perfected over generations, is tooled with designs that complement the content within. Mathematical works bear geometric patterns. Medical texts display flowing vine motifs symbolizing life and growth. Philosophical works feature abstract designs that suggest the endless complexity of human thought. You pause before a display case containing one of the library's most precious treasures, an illuminated manuscript of the Quran, copied by the calligrapher Ibn Muqla himself, the master who perfected the proportional relationships between different Arabic letters. Each page of this holy book represents months of devoted labor. The calligraphy so perfect that it seems to have been written by angels rather than human hands. The illuminations surrounding the sacred text, created using gold leaf applied with brushes made from the finest sable hair, catches and reflects the morning light like captured sunbeams. Lapis lazuli, ground to powder and mixed with egg tempera, creates blues deeper than the desert sky at midnight, while vermilion, made from cinnabar, produces reds that glow like the embers of a sacred fire. The geometric patterns that frame each page, based on mathematical principles of infinite tessellation, create visual rhythms that complement the musical flow of the Quranic verses. These patterns, requiring months of careful calculation and execution, Transform each page into a window onto the infinite, a visual representation of the divine order that underlies all creation. As you gaze upon this masterpiece, you become aware of a scholar standing nearby, his presence as quiet and unobtrusive as morning mist. He is an elderly man, perhaps 70 years of age, his white beard carefully trimmed and his dark eyes bright with the intelligence of a lifetime devoted to learning. His garments, simple but well-made, mark him as a man of scholarship rather than worldly wealth. This scholar, you sense, has spent countless hours in contemplation of the very manuscript you now admire. His breathing, slow and deep, seems synchronized with some inner rhythm of contemplation, as if his entire being has been attuned to the pursuit of divine knowledge. When he notices your presence, he offers a gentle nod of acknowledgement, his eyes crinkling with the kind of warmth that comes only from a life lived in service to truth and wisdom. Without speaking, he gestures toward the manuscript with a hand that bears the ink stains of decades of scholarly work. His gesture, graceful and reverent, invites you to share in his appreciation of the calligrapher's art. Together, you stand in comfortable silence, two souls united in wonder at the beauty of human devotion transformed into visible form. The morning light, streaming through the tall windows, continues to change and shift, creating new patterns of illumination across the manuscript's pages. What appeared as pure gold a moment ago now reveals subtle variations in hue, the careful work of an artist who understood that divine truth manifests itself in infinite variety, even within perfect unity. After several minutes of shared contemplation, the elderly scholar moves away with the same quiet grace that marked his approach, leaving you alone with the sacred text and your own thoughts. His departure, like his presence, adds to, rather than detracts, from the peaceful atmosphere of the library, a reminder that true scholarship is as much about knowing when to remain silent as when to speak. You continue your exploration of the manuscript hall, allowing your feet to carry you wherever your curiosity leads. The wooden shelves, crafted from cedar brought from the mountains of Lebanon, rise like columns in a forest of knowledge, their surfaces bearing the accumulated wisdom of centuries. The wood itself, chosen for its resistance to insects and its pleasant aroma, contributes to the library's perfect atmosphere for preservation and study. In one corner of the hall, you discover a small reading area furnished with low cushions covered in silk from the looms of Damascus. Here, a young woman scholar, her face partially veiled in the fashion of learned ladies, studies a manuscript on mathematics. Her presence, unusual but not unknown in the enlightened atmosphere of Baghdad's House of Wisdom, represents the Islamic tradition's respect for learning, regardless of gender. The mathematical text she examines, written by the female mathematician and astronomer Maryam al-Ajliya, explores geometric principles that would later influence architecture throughout the Islamic world. The young scholar's careful notes, written in the elegant hand taught in the schools for educated women in Baghdad, will perhaps contribute to new discoveries that will benefit all humanity. Her clothing, modest but beautiful, reflects both piety and sophistication. Her outer robe, woven from wool dyed with saffron from Kashmir, glows golden in the morning light, while her silk head covering, decorated with subtle geometric embroidery, frames her face with dignity and grace. Her hands, unmarked by manual labor, but stained with ink from long hours of study, turn the pages with the same reverent care displayed by all true scholars. Moving past this quiet scene of feminine learning, you find yourself in a section of the library dedicated to works of natural history. Here, manuscripts describe the plants, animals, and minerals of lands both familiar and exotic. Al-Jahiz's great work on animals, illustrated with drawings that capture both scientific accuracy and artistic beauty, rests beside treatises on botany by scholars who traveled the length and breadth of the Islamic world in search of knowledge. One manuscript, bound in leather dyed green to represent the natural world it describes, contains detailed descriptions of plants used in medicine. Each illustration, drawn with inks made from the very plants described, shows not only the external appearance of medicinal herbs, but also detailed views of roots, seeds, and flowers, information crucial for proper identification and preparation of healing remedies. The text, written in the clear scientific prose favored by medical scholars, describes not only the physical properties of each plant, but also its effects on the human body, proper methods of preparation, and appropriate dosages for different conditions. This practical knowledge, gathered through centuries of careful observation and experimentation, represents one of humanity's most precious inheritances. As you examine these natural history texts, you become aware of a quiet conversation taking place nearby. Two scholars, one a specialist in botany from Cordoba and the other an expert on minerals from Isfahan, are comparing notes on the medicinal properties of various substances. Their discussion, conducted in the mixture of Arabic and Persian, common among educated people throughout the Islamic world, touches on questions that bridge pure science and practical healing. The botanist, his hands stained green from years of working with plant materials, describes recent discoveries about the properties of a rare herb found only in the mountains of Afghanistan. His colleague, whose fingers bear the telltale marks of handling minerals and chemical preparations, offers insights about how certain metals and stones might enhance the plant's therapeutic effects. Their conversation, though technical in nature, is conducted with the same reverent attention to truth that characterizes all genuine scholarly discourse. Neither man seeks to dominate the discussion or prove his superior knowledge. Instead, they collaborate in the ancient tradition of scholars working together to push back the boundaries of human ignorance. You listen for a few moments to their quiet exchange, appreciating both the depth of their knowledge and the humility with which they share it. Their words, precise and carefully chosen, reflect years of study and experience, yet their tone remains that of students rather than masters. Men who understand that the more one learns, the more one realizes how much remains to be discovered. The morning progresses, and you notice how the changing light continues to transform the appearance of the manuscript hall. Shadows that were deep and mysterious an hour ago have shortened and brightened, while new areas of the vast space emerge from darkness into the warm embrace of sunlight. This constant change, gradual and peaceful, mirrors the eternal process of learning itself, the slow emergence of truth from the darkness of ignorance. Moving toward another section of the library, you find yourself among the works of philosophy and theology. Here, the manuscripts seem to emanate a different kind of energy, the profound stillness that comes from minds grappling with the deepest questions of existence. The works of Al-Farabi, the great philosopher who sought to reconcile Platonic idealism with Islamic revelation, rest beside commentaries on Aristotle by Ibn Rushd, whose rational approach to faith would influence thinkers throughout Europe and the Islamic world. One particular manuscript draws your attention, a work on metaphysics written in the elegant Thuluth script that transforms each page into a work of art. The text, exploring the relationship between reason and revelation, represents centuries of Islamic philosophical thought. The careful work of scholars who sought to understand both the physical universe and the spiritual reality that underlies it. The binding of this philosophical work, crafted from leather dyed the deep purple of Byzantine royalty, is decorated with abstract patterns that suggest the infinite complexity of metaphysical questions. Gold thread, worked into the leather while still supple, creates designs that seem to shift and change as the light moves across them. A visual metaphor for the elusive nature of ultimate truth. As you study this beautiful manuscript, you become aware of a scholar seated nearby, his entire being focused on a text of Sufi mysticism. His face, marked by years of contemplation, radiates a peace that comes only from long communion with divine truth. His simple woolen robe, undyed and unadorned, reflects the Sufi preference for spiritual over material beauty. Yet his very presence seems to fill the surrounding space with a subtle radiance. The mystic's reading, you observe, is unlike the analytical study practiced by most scholars. Instead of taking notes or making comparisons, he simply absorbs the text, allowing its spiritual truths to permeate his consciousness like water soaking into dry earth. His breathing, synchronized with the rhythm of the prose, transforms the act of reading into a form of meditation and prayer. The manuscript he studies, you notice, is a work by the great Sufi master Al-Junaid, whose teachings on the annihilation of the ego in divine love represent one of Islam's most profound spiritual traditions. The text, copied by a scribe who was himself a follower of the Sufi path, bears an almost tangible aura of sanctity, as if the very words carry within them the spiritual realization of their author. The morning light, now streaming more directly through the windows, illuminates the mystic's face with a golden radiance that seems to come as much from within as from without. His eyes, focused on the sacred text, but somehow seeing beyond the written words to their inner meaning, reflect depths of understanding that cannot be achieved through reason alone. After some time, the mystic closes his eyes, allowing the words he has read to settle into the depths of his consciousness. His stillness, profound and complete, transforms him into a living example of the spiritual principles described in the manuscripts around him. In his presence, you feel your own breathing slow and deepen, your mind settling into the same peaceful rhythm that governs his meditation. The sounds of the library, the gentle whisper of turning pages, the soft murmur of scholarly conversation, the distant splash of fountain water from the courtyard, all seem to fade into a background hum that enhances rather than disturbs the atmosphere of contemplation. This silence, deeper than mere absence of noise, is the silence of minds absorbed in truth, hearts open to wisdom, souls seeking union with the divine source of all knowledge. You move away from the mystic scholar with the same quiet respect he has shown for his studies, allowing him to continue his spiritual reading undisturbed. Your own footsteps, muffled by the thick carpets, seem to carry you deeper into the heart of the library's mysteries, towards sections you have not yet explored and treasures you have not yet discovered. In a quieter corner of the manuscript hall, you find a collection devoted to works on astronomy and mathematics. Here, the accumulated observations of Islamic scientists rest in perfect order. their careful measurements and calculations preserved for future generations of astronomers and mathematicians. The astrolabe treatises of al-Zarqali, whose instruments allowed navigators to cross vast oceans with confidence, share shelf space with the trigonometric tables of al-Battani, whose work corrected errors that had persisted in Ptolemy's calculations for 8 centuries. One manuscript, bound in dark blue leather studded with silver stars that mirror the actual constellations, contains star charts of unprecedented accuracy. These charts, based on observations made from the library's own observatory, represent thousands of hours of patient work by astronomers who understood that precise knowledge of celestial movements was essential for both navigation and timekeeping. The illustrations in these astronomical works, drawn with instruments of mathematical precision, seem to pulse with life in the changing morning light. Perfect circles, representing the orbits of planets, intersect with straight lines that mark the paths of stars across the seasonal sky, creating diagrams that reveal the hidden mathematical relationships governing all celestial motion. As you study these astronomical treasures, you notice a scholar working nearby with actual observational instruments. His brass astrolabe, crafted by the master instrument makers of Isfahan, gleams in the morning light, its intricate engravings showing not only practical scales and measurements, but also decorative patterns that transform the tool into a work of art. The astronomer, his weathered face, marking him as a man who has spent countless nights studying the sky, adjusts the astrolabe's various components with practiced ease. His movements, precise and economical, reflect decades of experience in the practical application of astronomical knowledge. Beside him on the table rest other instruments, a brass quadrant for measuring stellar altitudes, an armillary sphere for demonstrating planetary motions, and various calculating devices that allow complex astronomical computations to be performed with speed and accuracy. The scholar's clothing, practical rather than ornate, reflects his dedication to empirical observation over theoretical speculation. His dark robe, woven from wool that will provide warmth during long nights of sky watching, is supplemented by a heavier cloak that hangs nearby, ready for use when evening comes and the stars emerge for study. His notes, written on sheets of the finest paper made in the workshops of Baghdad, record observations made over many years of systematic sky watching. Each entry, dated according to both the Islamic calendar and astronomical time, contributes to the vast database of celestial knowledge that allows Islamic astronomers to predict eclipses, determine prayer times, and guide travelers across land and sea. The morning continues its slow progression, and you find yourself drawn toward yet another section of the great library, this one devoted to works of literature and poetry. Here, the manuscripts seem to sing even in silence, their words carrying the accumulated beauty of human expression across centuries and cultures. Persian poetry, with its intricate meters and elaborate metaphors, shares space with Arabic verse that captures the stark beauty of desert landscapes and the complex emotions of nomadic peoples. The Mu'allaqat, those 7 pre-Islamic poems that were hung on the Kaaba itself, rest in places of honor, their ancient words preserving a way of life that has passed into legend. One manuscript, its pages decorated with illuminations that seem to dance in the morning light, contains the collected works of Abu Nuwas, the great poet whose verses celebrate both earthly pleasure and spiritual longing. The calligraphy, executed in the flowing Nastaliq script favored for Persian and Arabic poetry, transforms each verse into a visual melody that complements the musical flow of the words themselves. The illuminations surrounding the poems, created using pigments ground from precious minerals and mixed with the finest oils, depict garden scenes that mirror the paradisiacal imagery of the verses. Golden birds perch among flowering trees whose blossoms never fade, while streams of liquid silver wind through meadows of emerald and sapphire, creating a visual paradise that complements the verbal one described in the poetry. As you admire these literary treasures, you become aware of a young poet seated nearby, his own verses spread before him on sheets of cream-colored paper. His face, marked by the intensity that characterizes true artists, shows both the joy of creation and the struggle of trying to capture fleeting inspiration in permanent words. The young man's clothing, simple but well-made, reflects his status as a member of the educated class rather than the wealthy elite. His white cotton robe, suitable for the warm climate of Baghdad, is supplemented by a light woolen cloak, dyed the deep indigo that was fashionable among young intellectuals. His turban, wound in the style favored by poets and scholars, is decorated with a single ostrich feather that marks him as a person of literary accomplishment. His writing materials, laid out with the care of a craftsman preparing for important work, include several reed pens carved to different thicknesses for various types of script, small pots of ink mixed to different consistencies, and a supply of the finest paper available in Baghdad's markets. A small brass ruler, used to ensure straight lines and proper spacing, rests beside a compass for drawing perfect circles in geometric poetry. The poet's method of composition, you observe, involves writing a few lines, then reading them aloud in a whisper to test their sound and rhythm, then making careful revisions before proceeding to the next verse. This process, slow and methodical, reflects the Islamic tradition's emphasis on the music of language, the understanding that poetry must please the ear as well as the mind. His current work, you can see from your respectful distance, appears to be a ghazal, one of those complex poetic forms that explores themes of love and loss through intricate patterns of meter and rhyme. Each couplet, complete in itself, yet contributing to the overall emotional architecture of the poem, requires careful balancing of meaning and music, sense and sound. The morning light streaming through windows, designed to provide perfect illumination for reading and writing, bathes the poet's workspace in a golden radiance that seems to enhance his creativity. The interplay of light and shadow across his papers creates constantly changing patterns that mirror the shifting emotions explored in his verses. As you watch this scene of literary creation, you feel yourself drawn into the same contemplative rhythm that governs the poet's work. Your breathing slows to match the natural cadences of his composition process, your mind settling into the peaceful alertness that characterizes true appreciation of artistic beauty. The sounds around you, the soft scratch of the poet's pen, the gentle rustle of paper as scholars turn pages, the distant murmur of intellectual conversation, all combine to create an atmosphere that nurtures both creativity and contemplation. This is the sound of human civilization at its finest, minds and hearts working together to preserve and extend the boundaries of knowledge and beauty. You move slowly through the literary section, allowing yourself to be guided by curiosity and wonder rather than any predetermined plan. Each manuscript you encounter opens new windows onto the human experience, from the epic adventures described in the Shahnameh to the mystical insights recorded in Sufi poetry. From the philosophical dialogues of al-Tawhidi to the satirical observations of al-Jahiz, one particular manuscript draws your attention, a collection of stories known as the 1001 Nights, whose tales of magic and adventure have entertained listeners throughout the Islamic world. The manuscript, bound in silk-covered boards, decorated with scenes from the stories themselves, contains versions of tales that have been refined through countless retellings by professional storytellers. The illustrations accompanying these stories, painted by artists who understood both the literal and symbolic meaning of the tales, transform each page into a window onto a world where the boundaries between reality and imagination become fluid. Genies emerge from brass lamps, flying carpets carry heroes across desert skies, and hidden treasures await discovery in caves guarded by magical words. Yet, even these fantastic tales, you realize, serve a deeper purpose than mere entertainment. Hidden within their magical narratives are profound truths about human nature, moral lessons about the consequences of greed and the rewards of virtue, and spiritual insights about the ultimate unity underlying apparent diversity. The morning progresses, and you find yourself in yet another section of the vast library, this one containing works on history and geography. Here, the chronicles of Islamic expansion, the biographies of great leaders, and the detailed descriptions of distant lands rest in carefully organized collections that preserve the memory of human achievement and exploration. Maps, drawn on sheets of the finest parchment and colored with inks made from precious minerals, show the extent of Islamic civilization at its height, from the Iberian Peninsula in the west to the Indus River in the east, from the Caucasus Mountains in the north to the sources of the Nile in the south. These maps record not just political boundaries, but also trade routes, centers of learning, and sites of religious significance. One map, particularly detailed and beautiful, shows the pilgrimage routes to Mecca, with careful notations of distances between stops, available water sources, and the best times of year for travel. This map, created for the use of pilgrims from throughout the Islamic world, represents the same spirit of practical service that motivates all true scholarship. The historical chronicles, written by scholars who understood their responsibility to preserve accurate records for future generations, provide detailed accounts of the rise and development of Islamic civilization. These works, based on careful research and eyewitness testimony, chronicle not just the deeds of rulers and generals, but also the daily lives of ordinary people, the development of cities, and the gradual spread of Islamic culture and values. As you study these historical works, you become aware of an elderly chronicler seated at a nearby table, his white beard and ink-stained fingers marking him as a man who has devoted his life to recording the truth of human experience. Before him lie several manuscripts, their pages filled with his careful handwriting, and you realize that you are witnessing history in the making, watching as contemporary events are transformed into permanent record. The chronicler's method, you observe, involves consulting multiple sources before recording any event, carefully comparing different accounts and noting discrepancies or uncertainties. His commitment to accuracy, evident in his painstaking corrections and revisions, reflects the Islamic tradition's emphasis on truthfulness as a fundamental virtue. His writing materials, arranged with the precision of a craftsman, include not only pens and ink, but also a small abacus for calculating dates and distances, a collection of reference works for checking facts and names, and a supply of fine sand for blotting wet ink. These tools, simple but essential, represent the infrastructure that makes accurate historical record-keeping possible. The morning light, now reaching its full strength, illuminates the chronicler's work with perfect clarity. His concentration, absolute and unwavering, transforms the act of writing into a form of worship, a recognition that recording truth is itself a sacred duty. In his presence, you feel the weight of historical responsibility, the understanding that present actions will someday become part of the permanent record that guides future generations. The sounds of the library continue to flow around you like a gentle river, carrying you deeper into contemplation and wonder. The whispered conversations of scholars, the soft scratch of pens on parchment, the rustle of turning pages, all contribute to a symphony of intellectual activity that has been playing in these halls for decades. You find yourself drawn toward a quieter section of the library, an area devoted to meditation and private study. Here, individual scholars sit in small alcoves, each one furnished with everything necessary for concentrated intellectual work. The alcoves, designed according to principles of sacred geometry, create perfect environments for deep thought and spiritual reflection. In one alcove, a philosopher contemplates a manuscript on the nature of existence, his face reflecting the profound concentration required for metaphysical inquiry. In another, a mathematician works through complex calculations, his mind focused entirely on the abstract relationships that govern number and form. Each scholar, though working alone, contributes to the collective enterprise of human understanding that defines the library's mission. The atmosphere in this section, even quieter than the rest of the library, seems charged with intellectual energy. The very air seems to vibrate with the intensity of minds engaged in the deepest forms of human inquiry. Yet this intensity, rather than creating tension, produces a profound sense of peace, the peace that comes from souls engaged in their proper work. As the morning moves toward midday, you feel your own consciousness settling into the same rhythm of contemplative study that governs this sacred space. Your breathing, slow and regular. Your mind, alert but peaceful. Your spirit, open to whatever truths may reveal themselves, all combine to create a state of perfect receptivity to learning and wisdom. The manuscript hall, with its endless shelves and countless treasures, stretches around you like a physical embodiment of human intellectual achievement. Every book, every scroll, every carefully preserved document represents someone's attempt to push back the boundaries of ignorance and contribute to the sum of human knowledge. And in the gentle whisper of scholarly conversation, in the soft sounds of study and research, in the profound silence that underlies all intellectual activity, you hear the voice of civilization itself, the eternal human conversation about truth, beauty, meaning, and the ultimate purposes of existence. Your eyelids grow heavy as the morning light continues its slow dance through the arched windows, the whispered voices of the scholars creating a natural lullaby of learning, and you drift peacefully into a state of deep contemplative rest, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of ages, cradled in the gentle arms of eternal knowledge. Chapter 3: Copyists at Work, Preserving Knowledge. You waken slowly, softly, to find yourself in a different wing of the great library of Baghdad, a space filled with the gentle rhythmic sounds of scholarly labor. The morning has progressed toward midday, and the golden light streaming through the tall windows now illuminates one of the most crucial activities taking place within these sacred walls: the careful copying of manuscripts by dedicated scribes. All around you, like a symphony of preservation, you hear the soft scratching of reed pens on parchment, the whispered consultations between copyists, and the gentle rustle of pages being turned with infinite care. This is the scriptorium, the workshop where knowledge is not merely stored, but actively reproduced, ensuring that the wisdom of ages will survive to enlighten future generations. The air carries the distinctive sense of the copyist's craft, the earthy aroma of freshly mixed ink, the clean smell of new parchment, and the subtle fragrance of the rose water used to clean and prepare writing surfaces. These aromas, blended together by the gentle circulation of air through the library's ingenious ventilation system, create an atmosphere that seems to nurture both concentration and creativity. You move slowly, quietly, through the rows of wooden desks where scribes work with the patience and precision that their sacred task demands. Each desk, crafted from cedar wood and positioned to catch the perfect amount of morning light, is a complete workshop in miniature, equipped with everything a copyist needs to transform ancient wisdom into new manuscripts that will carry that wisdom into the future. At the first desk you approach, a young scribe from Damascus works on copying a medical treatise by the great physician Al-Razi. His movements, deliberate and graceful, reflect years of training in the precise art of manuscript reproduction. His reed pen, carved from bamboo grown along the banks of the Euphrates, glides across the parchment with the smooth confidence that comes from thousands of hours of practice. The scribe's clothing, simple but well-made, reflects both his scholarly vocation and his practical needs. His white cotton robe, loose enough to allow free movement of his arms, is protected by a dark blue apron that bears the inevitable stains of his profession. His sleeves, rolled back to prevent them from smudging wet ink, reveal hands that are both strong and delicate, capable of the finest detailed work, yet sturdy enough for long hours of continuous labor. His writing materials, arranged with the precision of a master craftsman, include several reed pens of different thicknesses, small ceramic inkwells containing different colors of ink, sheets of fine sand for blotting, and a collection of rulers and compasses for ensuring perfect spacing and alignment. A small brass lamp, ready to be lit when the natural light begins to fade, stands ready to extend his working hours into the evening. The manuscript he copies, you observe, is written in the clear Nashgur script, favored for medical and scientific works. Each letter, formed with mathematical precision, maintains perfect proportion and spacing, creating pages that are not only accurate, but beautiful to behold. The scribe's mastery of calligraphy transforms the mere act of copying into an art form that honors both the original author and the knowledge being preserved. As you watch, the young copyist pauses to consult the original manuscript, checking a particular phrase to ensure perfect accuracy. His concentration, absolute and unwavering, reflects his understanding that even the smallest error could potentially corrupt centuries of accumulated medical knowledge. This responsibility, far from being a burden, seems to inspire him to ever greater precision and care. The original manuscript, you notice, shows signs of age and heavy use. Its parchment, slightly darkened by time, bears the annotations of previous readers, while its binding, though carefully maintained, shows the wear that comes from being consulted by generations of physicians and scholars. The very condition of this ancient text emphasizes the crucial importance of the copying work being performed. Moving to the next desk, you encounter an elderly master copyist whose white beard and ink-stained fingers mark him as one of the most experienced practitioners of his craft. Before him lies a complex astronomical work, its pages filled with mathematical calculations and celestial diagrams that require the highest level of skill to reproduce accurately. This master scribe, you observe, works with tools that reflect decades of refinement and specialization. His reed pens, carved to his exact specifications, produce lines of perfect consistency and smoothness. His inks, mixed according to formulas he has perfected over years of experimentation, provide exactly the right balance of fluidity and permanence. His parchment, selected from the finest available sources, offers the perfect surface for his precise calligraphy. The astronomical diagrams he copies, intricate representations of planetary movements and stellar positions, require not only calligraphic skill, but also mathematical understanding. Each circle must be perfectly round, each angle precisely measured, each calculation double-checked for accuracy. The master copyist approaches this challenge with the confidence of long experience, his hands moving with practiced certainty as he reproduces complex geometric forms. His workspace, organized with the efficiency of a master craftsman, includes not only writing materials, but also the specialized instruments needed for astronomical copying. Brass compasses, their arms adjustable to create circles of any desired radius, rest beside straight edges made from polished ivory. A small abacus, used for checking mathematical calculations, sits ready to verify any computational work that appears in the text. The morning light, streaming through windows specifically positioned to provide optimal illumination for detailed work, bathes the master copyist's desk in a golden radiance that seems to enhance his concentration. His posture, erect but relaxed, reflects the physical discipline required for long hours of precise work, while his breathing, slow and regular, indicates the mental calm necessary for sustained attention to detail. As you continue through the scriptorium, you encounter copyists working on many different types of manuscripts. Here, a specialist in legal texts reproduces a work on Islamic jurisprudence, his script reflecting the formal dignity appropriate to legal scholarship. There, a copyist trained in philosophical works labors over a translation of Aristotle, his calligraphy elegant enough to match the sophistication of the ideas being recorded. Each copyist, you realize, has developed specialized skills appropriate to their particular field of expertise. Those who copy mathematical works must be able to reproduce complex equations and geometric diagrams. Specialists in medical texts must understand anatomical terminology and be able to draw accurate biological illustrations. Copyists of religious works must maintain the highest standards of calligraphic beauty while ensuring perfect doctrinal accuracy. The diversity of texts being copied reflects the incredible breadth of knowledge preserved within the library's collections. Scientific treatises rest beside works of literature, philosophical dialogues alongside practical manuals, religious commentaries next to historical chronicles. This variety, far from creating confusion, demonstrates the Islamic civilization's commitment to preserving all forms of human knowledge and understanding. You pause beside a desk where a female copyist, one of the few women working in the scriptorium, reproduces a manuscript on mathematics written by another woman scholar. Her presence, though unusual, reflects the Islamic tradition's recognition that intellectual ability transcends gender boundaries. Her work, as precise and beautiful as that of her male colleagues, contributes to the same great enterprise of knowledge preservation. The female scribe's clothing, modest but practical, allows her to work with the same freedom and comfort enjoyed by other copyists. Her dark blue robe, made from wool dyed with indigo from distant India, is protected by a work apron decorated with geometric patterns that reflect her mathematical interests. Her head covering, made from silk and decorated with subtle calligraphic designs, frames her face with dignity while protecting her hair from ink stains. The sounds of the scriptorium, constant but never intrusive, create a natural rhythm that seems to enhance rather than disturb concentration. The scratching of pens, the whispered consultations, the soft turning of pages, all combine to produce an auditory environment that supports focused intellectual work. This is the sound of civilization preserving itself, of human knowledge being carefully transferred from one generation to the next. You move toward a section of the scriptorium devoted to the copying of illustrated manuscripts, works where the visual elements are as important as the text itself. Here, copyists work in collaboration with artists, combining their skills to reproduce works that integrate written knowledge with visual beauty. At one desk, a copyist specializing in natural history works reproduces the text of a botanical treatise, while an artist beside him carefully copies the detailed plant illustrations that accompany each description. Their collaboration, based on years of working together, demonstrates the teamwork required to preserve knowledge that exists in both verbal and visual forms. The botanical illustrations you observe are reproduced with scientific accuracy that rivals the precision of the text. Each leaf, flower, and root system is carefully observed and faithfully recorded, ensuring that future readers will have access to the same visual information that guided the original author's research. The artist's pigments, ground from minerals and plants, and mixed with techniques perfected over generations, provide colors that will remain bright and clear for centuries to come. The collaboration between copyist and artist, conducted through quiet gestures and whispered consultations, reflects a partnership based on mutual respect and shared dedication to accuracy. Neither worker dominates the process. Instead, they function as equal partners in the great enterprise of knowledge preservation. Moving deeper into the scriptorium, you encounter a section devoted to the copying of the most precious and delicate manuscripts. Works so ancient or valuable that they require special handling and techniques. Here, master copyists work with materials and methods reserved for the most important preservation projects. The parchment used in this section, made from the finest sheepskins prepared according to ancient techniques, provides a writing surface of unparalleled quality. The preparation process, involving careful cleaning, stretching, and treatment with lime and other materials, transforms raw hide into a medium perfectly suited for permanent record-keeping. The inks used here, mixed according to formulas guarded as professional secrets, provide exceptional permanence and clarity. Black ink, made from oak galls and iron sulfate, produces a deep, rich color that will remain legible for centuries. Colored inks, created from precious minerals like lapis lazuli and vermilion, add decorative elements that enhance both beauty and meaning. The tools employed in this special section represent the finest products of Islamic craftsmanship. Reed pens, selected from the best bamboo and carved with perfect precision, provide the flexibility and control needed for the most delicate calligraphic work. Brushes, made from the finest animal hairs, allow for the subtle gradations required in artistic illustration. You pause to observe a master copyist working on reproducing one of the library's most precious treasures. A manuscript of the Quran, written in gold ink on purple parchment. This work, originally created for a caliph's personal use, requires reproduction techniques that match its extraordinary beauty and spiritual significance. The copyist's approach to this sacred task, reverent and methodical, reflects his understanding of the manuscript's religious importance. Before beginning each session, he performs ritual ablutions to ensure spiritual purity. His workspace, kept scrupulously clean, becomes a temporary sanctuary where human craft serves divine purpose. The gold ink he uses, prepared from actual gold leaf, ground to powder, and suspended in a medium of gum arabic and honey, flows from his pen like liquid sunlight. Each letter, formed with perfect precision, catches and reflects the morning light, creating pages that seem to glow with inner radiance. The purple parchment, dyed with murex shells brought by merchants from the Mediterranean coast, provides a background that enhances the golden script's luminous beauty. The spiritual atmosphere surrounding this work, palpable and profound, seems to extend beyond the copyist's immediate workspace. Other scribes, though engaged in their own projects, work with greater quiet and concentration when in proximity to this sacred copying, as if the very act of reproducing holy text elevates the entire environment. As you watch this master craftsman work, you become aware of the meditative quality that characterizes his movements. Each stroke of the pen, deliberate and purposeful, becomes an act of worship as well as preservation. His breathing, synchronized with the rhythm of his writing, creates a natural cadence that transforms copying into a form of moving prayer. The morning light, now approaching its zenith, streams through the scriptorium's carefully designed windows with increasing intensity. The architects who planned this space, understanding the crucial importance of proper illumination for detailed work, positioned each window to provide optimal lighting conditions throughout the day. The result is a workspace that changes subtly with the sun's movement, always providing perfect conditions for the delicate work of manuscript reproduction. You continue your exploration of the scriptorium, moving toward a section where copyists specialize in reproducing mathematical and astronomical works. Here, the challenge extends beyond mere calligraphy to include the accurate reproduction of complex diagrams, geometric figures, and mathematical equations that require both artistic skill and technical understanding. At one desk, a copyist works on reproducing a treatise on algebra by Al-Khwarizmi, the Persian mathematician whose work revolutionized mathematical thinking throughout the world. The manuscript, filled with equations and geometric proofs, presents unique challenges that require specialized techniques and tools. The mathematical diagrams, essential to understanding the algebraic concepts being discussed, must be reproduced with perfect accuracy. Each line, angle, and curve carries mathematical significance, and even the smallest error could render the entire proof invalid. The copyist approaches this challenge with the precision of an engineer, using brass instruments to ensure perfect geometric relationships. His compass, crafted by the master toolmakers of Damascus, allows him to draw circles of any radius with mathematical precision. His straight edge, made from polished ivory and marked with tiny graduations, ensures that lines are perfectly straight and properly proportioned. These tools, simple but essential, represent centuries of refinement in the art of technical illustration. The copyist's mathematical training, evident in his confident handling of complex equations, reflects the Islamic world's emphasis on combining theoretical knowledge with practical skills. He understands not only how to reproduce the symbols and figures, but also their mathematical meaning, allowing him to catch and correct any errors that might have crept into earlier copies. As you observe his work, you notice how the morning light enhances the clarity of his geometric diagrams. The precise lines and perfect circles seem to pulse with mathematical life, revealing the hidden relationships that govern number and form. This visual clarity, achieved through the combination of skilled craftsmanship and perfect illumination, transforms abstract concepts into tangible beauty. Moving to another section of the scriptorium, you encounter copyists working on literary manuscripts, texts where the beauty of language must be matched by the elegance of calligraphy. Here, the challenge lies not in technical accuracy, but in capturing the musical quality of poetry and prose through visual form. A young copyist from Cordoba works on reproducing a collection of Arabic poetry, his pen flowing across the parchment with the rhythm of the verses themselves. The Nastaliq script he employs, with its flowing curves and elegant proportions, perfectly complements the musical quality of the Arabic language. Each line of poetry becomes a visual melody, combining meaning with beauty in perfect harmony. The poet's calligraphy, you observe, varies subtly with the emotional content of the verses being copied. Love poems receive treatment that emphasizes flowing, graceful lines, while heroic verses are rendered in bold, powerful strokes that reflect their martial themes. This sensitivity to content, characteristic of master calligraphers, transforms copying into an act of artistic interpretation. The materials used for literary copying, chosen to enhance the aesthetic impact of the finished work, include papers dyed in subtle colors and inks mixed with metallic powders for special effects. The result is manuscripts that function as both textual records and works of art. Objects beautiful enough to inspire the same emotions as the words they contain. The morning progresses, and you notice how the changing light continues to transform the atmosphere of the scriptorium. The warm golden radiance that characterized early morning has now given way to the brilliant white light of midday, requiring the copyists to make subtle adjustments in their working methods to maintain optimal conditions. Some scribes shift their positions slightly, moving their work to take advantage of the changing angle of illumination. Others adjust the height of their desks or the position of their lamps, maintaining the perfect balance of light and shadow required for detailed calligraphic work. These adjustments, made automatically after years of experience, demonstrate the deep understanding of working conditions that separates master craftsmen from mere copyists. The sounds of the scriptorium, constant but never overwhelming, create an auditory environment that supports rather than distracts from concentrated work. The rhythmic scratching of pens creates a natural percussion that seems to synchronize with the copyist's breathing and heartbeat, while the occasional whispered consultation adds human warmth to the focused atmosphere. You pause beside a desk where an elderly master copyist instructs a young apprentice in the finer points of manuscript reproduction. Their quiet conversation, conducted in the respectful tones appropriate to the transmission of professional knowledge, represents one of the most important functions of the scriptorium, the training of future generations of skilled craftsmen. The master's hands, gnarled with age, but still steady and precise, guide the young man's pen through complex calligraphic exercises. His voice, soft but authoritative, explains not only the technical aspects of letter formation, but also the deeper principles that govern all fine calligraphy: proportion, rhythm, balance, and harmony. The apprentice, eager but patient, absorbs these lessons with the reverence due to wisdom earned through decades of practice. His own hands, smooth and unstained by comparison to his master's, move with increasing confidence as he applies the principles being taught. This transmission of knowledge, as old as human civilization itself, ensures that the skills necessary for manuscript preservation will survive into future generations. The training materials used in this instruction, specially prepared exercises, and practice sheets reflect centuries of pedagogical refinement. The progression from simple letter forms to complex calligraphic compositions follows a logical sequence that builds skill gradually, while maintaining student interest and motivation. As you watch this scene of master and apprentice, you become aware of the profound continuity it represents. The techniques being taught today are the same ones that were perfected by master calligraphers generations ago, while the young apprentice will someday pass these same skills on to students of his own. This chain of knowledge, unbroken for centuries, ensures that the art of manuscript reproduction will continue to flourish. The morning light, now at its strongest, reveals details of the scribal craft that were hidden in earlier hours. The subtle variations in ink color that indicate different batches or formulations, the tiny corrections and adjustments that mark the work of perfectionists, the accumulated wear patterns on tools that tell stories of decades of use, all become visible in the brilliant illumination. You move toward a section of the scriptorium devoted to collaborative projects, works that require the coordinated efforts of multiple copyists working together. Here, large manuscripts are divided into sections, with each copyist responsible for reproducing specific portions while maintaining consistency with their colleagues' work. A massive historical chronicle documenting the rise of Islamic civilization from its earliest days to the present provides an example of such collaborative effort. The work, far too extensive for any single copyist to complete in a reasonable time, has been divided among 6 scribes, each one specializing in a particular historical period or geographical region. The coordination required for such projects, evident in the careful planning and regular consultations between team members, demonstrates the organizational sophistication of the library's scriptorium. Master scribes serve as project coordinators, ensuring consistency of style and format, while allowing individual craftsmen to contribute their specialized skills and knowledge. The finished portions of this collaborative manuscript, uniform in appearance despite having multiple authors, testify to the high standards maintained throughout the copying process. Casual readers would never suspect that the work represents the combined efforts of several different hands. So seamlessly have the individual contributions been integrated into a unified whole. As you observe these collaborative projects, you gain a deeper appreciation for the scriptorium's role as more than just a copying workshop. It functions as a complex organization, bringing together specialists from various fields to preserve and reproduce the accumulated knowledge of Islamic civilization. The social dynamics of this collaboration, based on mutual respect and shared dedication to accuracy, create an environment where individual talents can flourish while serving the greater good. The midday light, streaming through the scriptorium's windows at an increasingly direct angle, begins to create areas of intense brightness, alternating with deep shadows. This changing pattern of illumination, while potentially challenging for detailed work, adds visual drama to the scene of scholarly industry spread throughout the great workspace. Some copyists, those working on projects that can tolerate slight variations in lighting, continue their work without interruption. Others, engaged in the most delicate calligraphic tasks, pause to adjust their positions or wait for the light to shift to more favorable angles. These natural rhythms of work and rest, dictated by the sun's movement across the sky, create a temporal structure that has governed human activity since the beginning of time. You find yourself drawn toward a quiet alcove where a master copyist works alone on what appears to be a project of exceptional importance. The manuscript before him, ancient and fragile, receives treatment reserved for only the most precious texts. His movements, even more careful and deliberate than those of other scribes, reflect the extraordinary value of the work being preserved. The original manuscript, you can see, shows significant signs of age and wear. Its parchment, darkened by centuries, bears stains and tears that tell stories of the challenges faced by knowledge in its journey through time. Some passages, partially illegible due to fading ink or damaged writing surfaces, require careful reconstruction based on context and scholarly knowledge. The master copyist's approach to these challenges, methodical and scholarly, involves extensive research and consultation with other experts. When text is unclear or missing, he examines similar manuscripts for comparison, consults with scholars who specialize in the relevant field, and makes careful notations of any uncertainties or reconstructed passages. His reproduction, painstakingly accurate, yet enhanced by modern techniques and materials, will ensure that this ancient knowledge survives for future centuries. The new manuscript, created with the finest available materials and the highest level of craftsmanship, will serve as a bridge between past and future, carrying ancient wisdom into an uncertain tomorrow. The spiritual dimension of this preservation work, evident in the copyist's reverent handling of the ancient text, transforms mere craftsmanship into something approaching religious devotion. Each letter copied, each word preserved, represents a victory against the forces of time and decay that constantly threaten human knowledge. As you watch this master craftsman at work, you feel yourself drawn into the same meditative rhythm that governs his copying, the slow, deliberate movement of his pen, the careful formation of each letter, the periodic pauses for consultation and reflection, all create a temporal pattern that seems to suspend ordinary time and create space for deep contemplation. The morning hours, which seemed to pass so quickly during your earlier explorations, now move with the slower pace of careful craftsmanship. Time in the scriptorium, measured not by clocks, but by the gradual accumulation of completed work, follows natural rhythms that connect human activity to larger cosmic patterns. The sounds around you, the gentle scratching of pens, the soft rustle of parchment, the whispered consultations between colleagues, create an auditory landscape that enhances rather than disturbs concentration. This is the sound of civilization preserving itself, of human knowledge being carefully transferred from past to future through the dedicated work of skilled craftsmen. You move toward another section of the scriptorium, this one devoted to the final stages of manuscript preparation. Here, completed copying projects receive their final touches, binding, decoration, and quality control that will prepare them for addition to the library's permanent collection. The bookbinders, working with tools and materials that represent centuries of refinement, transform loose sheets of copied text into bound volumes capable of surviving decades of scholarly use. Their techniques, based on principles of both functionality and beauty, create books that are as durable as they are elegant. The leather used in binding, prepared in the tanneries of Cordova using techniques that produce exceptional suppleness and longevity, provides both protection and aesthetic appeal. The tooling and decoration applied to these leather covers, created using heated brass stamps and gold leaf, transform each book into a work of art worthy of the knowledge it contains. The bookbinder's workshop, adjacent to but separate from the main scriptorium, fills the air with its own distinctive aromas. The rich scent of leather, the sharp smell of the various adhesives and treatments used in binding, and the subtle fragrance of the woods used in creating protective storage boxes for the most valuable manuscripts. As you observe the bookbinding process, you appreciate the level of craftsmanship that goes into every aspect of manuscript production. From the initial preparation of writing materials through the final binding and decoration, each step requires specialized knowledge and skill, combining to create finished products that represent the highest achievements of human craftsmanship. The morning moves toward its conclusion, and you notice how the atmosphere of the scriptorium begins to change subtly. The intense concentration that characterized the early hours gradually gives way to a more relaxed rhythm as copyists complete their daily quotas and begin to prepare for the midday rest period. Some scribes, having reached natural stopping points in their work, clean their pens and put away their materials with the same care they brought to their copying. Others, engaged in projects that cannot be easily interrupted, continue working, but with slightly less intensity, knowing that the afternoon will bring renewed energy and focus. The changing pace creates opportunities for informal interaction between colleagues. Brief conversations about technical challenges, discussions of interesting discoveries made during copying, and the sharing of professional knowledge that enriches the entire scriptorium community. You find yourself in a position to overhear one such conversation. A discussion between two experienced copyists about variations they have discovered between different versions of the same text. Their analysis, conducted with scholarly precision, but in the informal atmosphere of professional collegiality, demonstrates the intellectual dimension of manuscript reproduction. These textual discussions, common throughout the scriptorium, serve important scholarly functions beyond mere copying. By comparing different versions of texts, copyists often identify copying errors that have accumulated over time, discover alternative readings that may represent different authorial intentions, and contribute to the broader scholarly understanding of important works. The scriptorium, you realize, functions not only as a preservation workshop, but also as a center of textual scholarship, where the detailed knowledge gained through copying contributes to broader academic understanding. The scribes, far from being mere mechanical reproducers, serve as active participants in the scholarly enterprise that defines the library's mission. As the morning approaches its end, you feel a deep sense of satisfaction at having witnessed the crucial work of manuscript preservation. The patient dedication of the copyists, their meticulous attention to detail, their reverent handling of ancient knowledge, all contribute to the great human enterprise of preserving wisdom for future generations. The sounds of the scriptorium, which have provided a constant background to your observations, seem to take on a ceremonial quality as the morning work period draws to its close. The rhythmic scratching of pens, the soft whisper of turning pages, the quiet conversations between colleagues, all blend together into a hymn of preservation, a celebration of the human commitment to knowledge and learning. The midday light, now streaming directly through the windows at its strongest angle, bathes the entire scriptorium in brilliant illumination that reveals every detail of the copying process. Manuscripts in various stages of completion, from blank sheets awaiting the copyist's pen to finished volumes ready for binding, represent the full cycle of preservation that ensures the continuity of human knowledge. Your breathing slows, your mind settles into the peaceful rhythm that governs this sacred workspace, and you feel yourself becoming part of the eternal process of preservation and transmission that connects past wisdom to future understanding. The copyists around you, absorbed in their vital work, continue the ancient human tradition of safeguarding knowledge against the ravages of time and ignorance. The morning in the scriptorium, with its demonstration of patient craftsmanship and devoted preservation, has revealed another dimension of the great library's mission. Here, knowledge is not merely stored, but actively reproduced, ensuring that the wisdom of ages will continue to flow like a great river from one generation to the next. And as the copyists prepare for their midday rest, as the brilliant light of noon fills the workspace with golden radiance, as the sounds of preservation continue their eternal rhythm, you feel your eyelids growing heavy, your consciousness settling into the same meditative peace that governs this sacred space, and you drift gently into a state of deep, restful contemplation, surrounded by the patient work of those who preserve the treasures of human wisdom. Chapter 4. Afternoon Rest in the Courtyard Garden. You awaken slowly, peacefully, as the intensity of the midday sun begins to soften into the gentler light of early afternoon. The sounds of the scriptorium have faded into quiet, and you find yourself drawn toward the central courtyard garden, that oasis of natural beauty that serves as the heart of the great library of Baghdad. The transition from the enclosed spaces of the library to the open courtyard feels like emerging from deep contemplation into gentle awakening. The afternoon air, warm but not oppressive, carries the mingled fragrances of jasmine, roses, and orange blossoms, creating an atmosphere that invites both rest and reflection. The garden, designed according to the traditional Persian Chahar Bagh pattern, spreads before you like a terrestrial paradise. 4 channels of clear water, fed by the same ingenious hydraulic system that ventilates the library, divide the space into quadrants, each one planted with different species of trees, flowers, and aromatic herbs. The sound of flowing water, gentle and continuous, provides a natural soundtrack that seems to slow your heartbeat and deepen your breathing. You walk slowly along one of the marble pathways that border the water channels, feeling the smooth stone beneath your bare feet gradually warming in the afternoon sun. The marble, quarried from the mountains of Proconnesus and transported to Baghdad by merchants who understood that beauty is as necessary as utility, reflects the changing light with subtle variations that create an ever-changing pattern of illumination. Palm trees, their fronds moving gently in the afternoon breeze, provide patches of welcome shade throughout the garden. These date palms, some planted when the library was first constructed, have grown tall and majestic over the decades, their trunks scarred with the natural patterns that mark their age and endurance. The soft rustle of their leaves creates a whispered conversation that seems to carry the wisdom of years. You settle beneath one of these ancient palms, finding a comfortable position on the thick carpet of grass that covers this section of the garden. The grass, a variety brought from the highlands of Persia and carefully tended by the library's gardeners, feels soft and cool against your skin, providing a natural cushion that invites prolonged rest and contemplation. From your position beneath the palm, you can see the entire garden spread before you like a living manuscript illuminated by nature's own hand. The geometric precision of the design, based on mathematical principles preserved in the library's own collection, creates perfect balance and harmony, while the organic growth of plants adds the natural variation that keeps the pattern alive and interesting. In the quadrant closest to you, rose gardens display blooms in every shade from pure white to deep crimson. These roses, cultivated varieties developed in the gardens of Damascus and Isfahan, release their perfume most strongly in the warm afternoon air. The fragrance, sweet but complex, seems to carry within it all the romance and beauty of Islamic poetry, transforming the simple act of breathing into a form of aesthetic experience. The rose bushes, carefully pruned and tended by master gardeners, grow in patterns that mirror the geometric designs found throughout Islamic art and architecture. Yet, unlike the static beauty of architectural decoration, these living patterns change continuously. As new blooms open, mature flowers fade, and the seasons cycle through their eternal rhythm of growth and renewal. Bees, drawn by the abundant nectar, move lazily from flower to flower, their gentle humming adding another layer to the garden's natural symphony. These bees, protected and encouraged by the library's staff, perform the same essential function in the garden that scholars perform within the library walls, transferring precious materials from source to source, ensuring the continuation and enrichment of life. The second quadrant of the garden, visible across one of the water channels, contains fruit trees that provide both beauty and nourishment. Orange trees, their dark green leaves providing deep shade, bear fragrant white blossoms alongside ripening fruit, creating a visual display that celebrates the abundance of nature. The oranges, brought to Baghdad by merchants from distant Andalusia, represent the same cultural exchange that enriches the library's manuscript collections. Pomegranate trees, their red flowers, like tiny flames among the green leaves, symbolize learning and wisdom in Islamic tradition. The fruit, with its countless seeds, represents the infinite nature of knowledge, the way that each new discovery opens pathways to countless other insights and understanding. These trees, planted when the library was young, have grown to maturity alongside the institution they serve, their annual cycle of flowering and fruiting, marking the passage of scholarly seasons. Fig trees, their broad leaves providing generous shade, offer fruit that has nourished scholars and students throughout the library's history. The figs, sweet and sustaining, ripen in late summer, providing natural refreshment during the hottest months of the Baghdad year. The trees themselves, with their silvery bark and distinctive leaf shape, add textural variety to a garden's visual composition. The third quadrant, dedicated to aromatic herbs and medicinal plants, serves both aesthetic and practical purposes. Here grow the herbs used in the library's kitchen to flavor the simple meals provided to resident scholars, as well as medicinal plants studied by the physicians who frequent the library's medical collection. Mint, its leaves releasing their sharp fragrance when brushed by passing breezes, grows in neat rows alongside basil, thyme, and other culinary herbs. These plants, originally brought from various regions of the Islamic world, have adapted to Baghdad's climate while retaining their distinctive characteristics and uses. Medicinal plants, carefully labeled with small stone markers bearing their names in both Arabic and Latin, provide living examples of the healing herbs described in the library's medical manuscripts. Students of medicine often come to this section of the garden to examine actual plants, comparing their appearance with the illustrations found in ancient texts, bridging the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application. The fourth and final quadrant of the garden, devoted to contemplative space, contains fewer plants but more opportunities for rest and reflection. Here, beneath spreading mulberry trees, simple stone benches provide seating for those who come seeking quiet meditation. The mulberry trees, their leaves prized for feeding silkworms, represent another connection between the garden and the scholarly activities of the library. Since silk is used in the binding of the most precious manuscripts, the afternoon sun, now past its zenith, but still warm and bright, creates constantly changing patterns of light and shadow throughout the garden. These patterns, shifting slowly as the sun moves across the sky, transform the garden into a living sundial, marking the passage of time through beauty rather than mere measurement. You close your eyes, allowing the sounds and sensations of the garden to wash over you in waves of peaceful sensation. the fountain at the garden's center, its jets calculated to produce the most pleasing sound of falling water, provides a constant, gentle background that masks any harsh sounds from the city beyond the library walls. Birds, attracted by the water and the abundant food provided by fruit trees and flowering plants, add their voices to the garden's natural chorus. Nightingales, though typically creatures of dawn and dusk, occasionally venture out in the protected environment of the garden, their complex songs weaving through the afternoon air like audible poetry. Doves, symbols of peace in Islamic tradition, have built nests in the carved stone decorations that crown the surrounding arcade. Their soft cooing, rising and falling in natural rhythm, creates a soundtrack of contentment that enhances the garden's peaceful atmosphere. These birds, protected by the library staff, serve as living reminders of the institution's peaceful mission. The sound of human activity, muted but present, drifts occasionally from the library buildings that surround the garden. Scholars taking their midday rest, students engaged in quiet discussion, administrators attending to the practical needs of the institution, all contribute to the sense of purposeful community that defines the library's character. You open your eyes again, allowing your gaze to wander slowly across the garden's carefully composed beauty. Every element, from the largest tree to the smallest flowering herb, has been chosen and positioned to contribute to the overall harmony of the design. Yet this harmony, rather than creating sterile perfection, provides a framework within which natural variation and seasonal change can occur. The water channels, engineered with the same precision that characterizes Islamic architecture, not only provide irrigation for the plants, but also create visual and auditory focal points that unify the garden's design. The water, clear and constantly moving, reflects the changing light, while producing sounds that range from the gentle gurgle of slow-moving streams to the musical splash of fountain jets. At the garden's center, where the 4 water channels meet, stands an octagonal fountain whose design incorporates both geometric precision and natural grace. The fountain's basin, carved from a single piece of white marble, bears inscriptions in elegant Kufic script that quote Quranic verses about the importance of knowledge and the beauty of creation. The fountain's jets, adjusted to create the perfect balance of sound and spray, send streams of water arcing into the afternoon air, where they catch and scatter the sunlight into countless tiny rainbows. This play of light and water, constantly changing yet always harmonious, creates a natural mandala that invites extended contemplation. You rise from your comfortable position beneath the palm tree and walk slowly toward the central fountain, your bare feet silent on the warm marble pathway. The fountain's rim, wide enough to serve as seating, invites you to rest in the heart of the garden's beauty while listening to the hypnotic sound of falling water. Seated on the fountain's rim, you can feel the gentle spray of water on your face and hands, a cooling mist that provides relief from the afternoon warmth without causing any discomfort. The marble beneath you, smooth and cool despite the warm air, provides perfect seating for extended meditation and reflection. From this central position, you can see into the covered walkways that surround the garden, where scholars have found shaded spots for reading and discussion. These walkways, supported by graceful arches and decorated with intricate geometric patterns, provide transitional spaces between the enclosed library and the open garden, allowing for different levels of engagement with nature and beauty. In one alcove, an elderly philosopher sits with a small group of students. Their quiet discussion, barely audible above the fountain's gentle music. The philosopher's gestures, graceful and deliberate, suggest that he is explaining some complex point of metaphysics or ethics, while his students listen with the respectful attention that such wisdom deserves. The informal teaching that takes place in the garden's peaceful setting, you realize, represents one of the library's most important functions, the transmission of knowledge from one generation to the next. The garden's beauty, rather than distracting from serious learning, seems to enhance the student's receptivity to wisdom and understanding. In another section of the walkway, a group of physicians examines medicinal plants from the herb garden, comparing their actual appearance with descriptions found in ancient texts. This hands-on learning, combining theoretical knowledge with practical observation, exemplifies the Islamic tradition's emphasis on empirical investigation and direct experience. The afternoon light, softer now than the harsh brilliance of midday, bathes the entire garden in a golden radiance that seems to enhance every color and texture. The white marble pathways glow like streams of light, while the green foliage seems to pulse with life and vitality. This quality of light, perfect for contemplation and study, explains why the garden serves as a favorite location for afternoon scholarly activities. You notice that the changing light reveals details that were hidden earlier in the day. The intricate patterns carved into the fountain's marble surfaces, the subtle variations in the rose's colors, the delicate architecture of individual leaves and flowers, all become more visible and appreciable in the gentle illumination of late afternoon. The garden's design, you realize, takes into account not only spatial relationships, but also temporal ones. The way that changing light and seasonal growth transform the space throughout the day and year. This four-dimensional approach to design, considering time as well as space, creates an environment that remains fresh and interesting despite daily familiarity. A gentle breeze, the afternoon wind that rises as the desert begins to cool, stirs the leaves of the trees and carries new fragrances throughout the garden. The orange blossoms, releasing their perfume most strongly in the moving air, create waves of fragrance that seem to ebb and flow like invisible tides throughout the space. This natural ventilation, working in harmony with the library's engineered air circulation system, ensures that the garden remains comfortable even during the warmest parts of the day. The moving air also carries the cooling effect of evaporating water from the fountain and channels, creating microclimates that make extended rest in the garden both pleasant and refreshing. You close your eyes again, allowing yourself to be carried deeper into the peaceful rhythm of the garden's natural life. Your breathing, slowed by the tranquil atmosphere, begins to synchronize with the gentle sounds around you. The soft splash of fountain water, the whispered rustle of palm fronds, the distant murmur of scholarly conversation. This synchronization, almost hypnotic in its effect, creates a state of consciousness that seems perfectly suited to the absorption of knowledge and wisdom. In this receptive state, the boundary between self and environment becomes less distinct, allowing for a more direct and intuitive understanding of the natural and intellectual harmony that the garden represents. The garden, you understand, serves not merely as decoration or recreation, but as an essential component of the learning environment. Its beauty and tranquility prepare the mind for serious study, while its natural rhythms provide necessary balance to the intense intellectual activity that characterizes scholarly life. Opening your eyes, you watch as late afternoon shadows begin to lengthen across the garden's geometric patterns. These shadows, cast by trees and architectural elements, create new patterns that overlay the garden's basic design, adding temporary complexity and visual interest that changes throughout the day. The interplay of light and shadow, permanent design, and temporary variation, architectural precision, and natural growth all combine to create an environment that engages multiple levels of consciousness simultaneously. The garden speaks to both rational and intuitive understanding, providing intellectual satisfaction while touching deeper levels of human response to beauty and harmony. As the afternoon progresses toward evening, you become aware of subtle changes in the garden's atmosphere and activity. The intense heat of midday has passed, and both plants and people seem to respond with renewed energy and vitality. Flowers that were closed against the harsh sun begin to reopen, while scholars emerge from their midday rest ready for the afternoon session of study and research. The transition from rest to renewed activity, gradual and natural, reflects the garden's role in the daily rhythm of library life. This space provides not escape from intellectual work, but restoration that makes such work possible, a necessary pause that prevents burnout while maintaining enthusiasm for learning and discovery. You rise from the fountain's rim, feeling refreshed and restored by your time in this oasis of beauty and tranquility. The afternoon rest has prepared you for whatever intellectual adventures the remaining hours may bring. Your mind clear, your spirit peaceful, your body relaxed and ready for new challenges. As you prepare to leave the garden and return to the library's manuscript collections, you take one final look around this remarkable space. The roses continue their eternal blooming. The fountain maintains its musical commentary on the passage of time, and the great trees stand as silent witnesses to the generations of scholars who have found rest and inspiration beneath their branches. The garden, eternal yet ever-changing, serves as a perfect metaphor for the library itself, a place where ancient wisdom is preserved while new insights continuously emerge, where the accumulated knowledge of the past provides foundation for the discoveries of the future, where human civilization celebrates both its achievements and its continuing quest for understanding. Your breathing deepens, your consciousness settles into perfect harmony with the garden's peaceful rhythms, and you feel yourself embraced by the timeless beauty that surrounds you, cradled in the gentle arms of nature's own wisdom, ready to carry this sense of peace and balance into whatever scholarly pursuits await you in the hours ahead. And as the afternoon light continues to soften, as the fountain's music provides its eternal commentary on the passage of time, as the fragrances of jasmine and roses fill the air with their sweet benediction, you feel your eyelids growing heavy, your mind settling into the same peaceful rhythm that governs this sacred space, and you drift gently into a state of deep, restorative rest, surrounded by the living beauty of paradise itself. Chapter 5. lantern light, and the quiet of night. You awaken slowly, softly, as the warm afternoon light begins its gentle transition into the golden hues of early evening. The sounds of the garden have grown even quieter, and through the library's tall windows, you can see that oil lamps are being lit throughout the reading rooms and corridors, their warm, flickering light promising hours of peaceful study ahead. The transition from day to night in the Great Library of Baghdad is a gradual, almost ceremonial process. As natural light fades, human ingenuity takes its place, ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge need never cease. You find yourself drawn back into the library's interior, where the evening's activities are beginning to unfold with the same quiet dignity that characterizes all aspects of life in this sacred institution. The corridors, lit by oil lamps placed at regular intervals along the walls, take on a different character in the evening hours. The warm amber light, softer and more intimate than the brilliant illumination of day, creates pockets of golden radiance separated by pools of gentle shadow. These contrasts, rather than hindering vision, seem to focus attention and create an atmosphere perfectly suited to contemplative study. You walk slowly through these lamplit corridors, your bare feet silent on the marble floors that have been cooled by the evening air flowing through the library's ingenious ventilation system. The oil lamps, burning refined olive oil imported from the groves of Syria and Palestine, produce a clean, steady light that casts no harsh shadows, their flames protected by glass chimneys that prevent drafts from causing flickering or smoke. The evening air, drawn through underground chambers and scented with rosewater from Damascus, carries the subtle fragrance that has become one of the library's most distinctive characteristics. This treated air, cool and pure, creates perfect conditions for extended study, while the aromatic qualities help maintain alertness and concentration during long hours of reading and research. As you enter the main reading hall, you discover that the evening hours bring their own particular atmosphere to the library's activities. The scholars who work by lamplight, fewer in number than those who study during the day, seem to possess a different quality of concentration, deeper and more sustained, as if the intimate environment of evening study encourages particularly profound forms of intellectual engagement. At tables placed strategically to take advantage of multiple lamp sources, serious scholars work on projects that require sustained attention over many hours. Their oil lamps, adjustable in height and position, provide precisely the illumination needed for detailed reading and writing, while the warm quality of the light reduces eye strain and creates an environment conducive to deep intellectual work. One elderly astronomer, his white beard glowing in the lamplight, studies star charts that require comparison with actual observations of the night sky. His work, combining theoretical knowledge with empirical observation, represents the highest achievements of Islamic science, the careful synthesis of ancient wisdom with direct investigation of natural phenomena. The astronomer's tools, spread across his table in careful organization, include not only manuscripts and writing materials, but also the brass instruments essential for celestial observation. His astrolabe, crafted by the master instrument makers of Isfahan, gleams in the lamplight, its intricate engravings showing both practical scales and decorative patterns that transform scientific instruments into works of art. Beside the astrolabe rest other tools of the astronomical trade: a brass quadrant for measuring stellar altitudes, an armillary sphere for demonstrating planetary motions, and various calculating devices that allow complex computations to be performed with speed and accuracy. These instruments, products of the Islamic world's technological sophistication, enable observations and calculations that advance human understanding of the cosmos. The astronomer's concentration, absolute and unwavering, reflects years of training in the patient observation and precise calculation that characterize serious scientific work. His movements, economical and purposeful, show the confidence that comes from decades of practice in the demanding art of astronomical investigation. As evening deepens, you notice how the quality of light in the library continues to evolve. The last traces of natural illumination fade from the tall windows, while the oil lamps seem to burn brighter and steadier, their warm amber glow creating an increasingly intimate atmosphere that draws scholars into deeper levels of contemplation and study. Moving through the reading hall, you encounter other evening scholars, each absorbed in their particular quest for knowledge and understanding. A philosopher, his dark robes making him nearly invisible except for the circle of lamplight that illuminates his workspace, contemplates a manuscript on metaphysics, his occasional notes reflecting hours of careful thought and analysis. The philosophical text he studies, written in the elegant Naskh script favored for serious scholarly works, explores questions that touch the very foundations of existence and knowledge. The margins, filled with comments and cross-references added by previous readers, create a written dialogue between generations of thinkers who have grappled with these eternal questions. His writing materials, laid out with the precision of long habit, include several reed pens of different thicknesses, small ceramic inkwells containing various colors of ink, and sheets of the finest paper available in Baghdad's markets. A small brass ruler, used to ensure straight lines and proper spacing, rests beside a compass for drawing perfect geometric figures. The philosopher's method of study, you observe, involves not merely reading, but active engagement with the text, questioning assumptions, exploring implications, and developing original insights that contribute to the ongoing scholarly conversation about ultimate reality and human understanding. Nearby, a young medical student works by the light of two carefully positioned lamps, studying anatomical diagrams in a manuscript by the great physician Ibn Sina. The illustrations, drawn with scientific precision yet possessing undeniable artistic beauty, show the human body in ways that reveal both its physical structure and its deeper significance as a reflection of divine creation. The medical manuscript, bound in leather treated with myrrh and frankincense to prevent decay, represents centuries of accumulated healing knowledge. The careful observations and practical experience of physicians who understood that medicine must combine theoretical understanding with compassionate care for human suffering. The student's approach to his studies, reverent yet practical, reflects the Islamic tradition's understanding that medical knowledge carries special responsibility, since the physician's work directly affects human life and well-being. His careful notes, written in the precise hand taught in Baghdad's medical schools, will someday guide his own practice of the healing arts. As you continue through the evening library, you become aware the sounds that do penetrate this scholarly silence, the soft scratch of pen on parchment, the gentle rustle of turning pages, the occasional whispered consultation between colleagues, seem to enhance rather than disturb the contemplative atmosphere. These are the sounds of minds at work, of human intelligence engaging with the accumulated wisdom of ages. The oil lamps themselves, burning steadily throughout the reading spaces, contribute their own subtle soundtrack to the evening's activities. The tiny crackling of burning wicks, almost inaudible but somehow comforting, provides a gentle background rhythm that seems to synchronize with the natural cadences of reading and writing. You find yourself drawn toward a section of the library devoted to mystical and religious texts, where the evening's intimate atmosphere seems particularly appropriate for spiritual study and contemplation. Here, scholars engaged in the deepest forms of religious inquiry work by lamplight that seems to glow with more than merely physical radiance. One Sufi master, his simple woolen robe and peaceful countenance marking him as a seeker of divine truth, reads from a manuscript of mystical poetry, his lips moving silently as he absorbs verses that speak of the soul's journey toward union with the divine. The text, written in the flowing Nastaliq script favored for Persian poetry, transforms spiritual insights into visual beauty that complements the profound meaning of the words. The mystic's reading, unlike the analytical study practiced by other scholars, involves complete absorption in the text, allowing its spiritual truths to penetrate consciousness like water soaking into dry earth. His breathing, synchronized with the rhythm of the verses, transforms reading into a form of meditation and prayer. The manuscript he studies, illuminated with gold and precious pigments by artists who were themselves followers of the mystical path, seems to glow with inner light in the warm radiance of the oil lamps. Each page, a meditation on divine beauty and spiritual truth, invites the reader into ever deeper levels of understanding and realization. As you watch this scene of mystical study, you feel yourself drawn into the same contemplative rhythm that governs the Sufi's reading. The boundary between observer and observed seems to dissolve in the intimate atmosphere of evening study, creating a shared space of spiritual seeking and divine contemplation. The evening progresses, and you notice how the library's atmosphere continues to deepen and intensify. The last sounds from the outside world, the distant calls of night watchmen, the fading echoes of the day's commercial activities, gradually disappear, leaving the library as an island of scholarly peace in the vast ocean of night. The oil lamps, now the sole source of illumination, seem to burn with increased intensity, their warm glow creating circles of golden light that make each study space feel like a private sanctuary, devoted to the pursuit of truth and understanding. This intimate lighting, far from limiting scholarly activity, seems to enhance concentration and encourage the kind of deep reading that leads to genuine insight and wisdom. You move toward a section where a group of scholars engages in quiet discussion about a complex philosophical problem. Their conversation, conducted in whispers out of respect for the library's contemplative atmosphere, represents the collaborative aspect of scholarship that has always characterized the Islamic intellectual tradition. The philosophers, men of different ages and backgrounds, united by their common quest for understanding, examine their question from multiple perspectives, each contribution building upon the insights offered by his colleagues. Their discussion, patient and thorough, demonstrates the Islamic tradition's emphasis on rational investigation and logical analysis in the pursuit of truth. Their manuscripts, spread across a large table lit by multiple oil lamps, include works by Aristotle, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and other great thinkers whose ideas continue to influence philosophical inquiry throughout the Islamic world. The scholar's ability to draw upon this vast intellectual heritage while developing original insights represents the finest achievement of Islamic scholarship. The quiet intensity of their discussion, punctuated by long moments of silent reflection, creates an atmosphere that seems to invite participation in the eternal human conversation about meaning, purpose, and the ultimate nature of reality. Their words, carefully chosen and precisely articulated, reflect years of training in the logical analysis and clear expression that characterize serious philosophical inquiry. As you listen to this philosophical dialogue, you become aware of the profound continuity it represents. The questions being discussed tonight are the same ones that have engaged human minds since the beginning of civilization. Yet each generation of thinkers brings new perspectives and insights that advance human understanding while honoring the wisdom of the past. The evening deepens further, and you find yourself in the library's most specialized section, the area devoted to the copying and preservation of the most precious manuscripts. Here, master scribes work by the light of specially designed lamps that provide perfect illumination for the most delicate calligraphic tasks. One master calligrapher, his weathered hands moving with the precision learned through decades of practice, copies a manuscript of the Quran using gold ink on purple parchment. His work, a labor of both technical skill and spiritual devotion, requires the highest levels of concentration and reverence, since any error could compromise the sacred text. The calligrapher's tools, arranged with ceremonial precision on his work table, include reed pens carved to his exact specifications, inks mixed according to formulas perfected over generations, and parchment prepared using techniques that ensure permanent preservation of the sacred words. The spiritual atmosphere surrounding this work, palpable in the evening's intimate lighting, transforms the act of copying into a form of worship. Each letter, formed with perfect precision and infinite care, becomes an offering to the divine source of all knowledge and understanding. The gold ink, flowing from the calligrapher's pen like liquid light, creates letters that seem to glow with inner radiance in the warm illumination of the oil lamps. The purple parchment, dyed with precious murex shells, provides a background that enhances the golden script's luminous beauty, while creating a visual representation of royal dignity appropriate to the sacred text. As you watch this master craftsman work, you feel yourself drawn into the same meditative rhythm that governs his copying. His breathing, synchronized with the movement of his pen, his concentration, absolute and unwavering, his reverence, evident in every careful stroke. all combine to create an atmosphere of profound spiritual intensity. The night continues its gentle progression, and you become aware of the library's transformation as evening moves toward its deepest hours. The building, which seemed so vast and bustling during the daylight hours, now feels more intimate and focused, its energy concentrated in the pools of lamplight where dedicated scholars pursue their various quests for knowledge and understanding. The oil lamps, burning steadily throughout the night, represent one of the library's most remarkable innovations: the understanding that learning need not be limited by the natural cycles of day and night. This commitment to continuous scholarship, maintained through the provision of artificial illumination and comfortable working conditions, ensures that the pursuit of knowledge never ceases. The lamp oil, refined olive oil, imported from the finest groves of Syria and Palestine, burns with a clean, steady flame that produces no smoke or unpleasant odors. The glass chimneys that protect each flame, crafted by the master glassmakers of Damascus, ensure that the light remains constant despite any movement of air through the library's ventilation system. The maintenance of these lamps, a continuous process that requires careful attention throughout the night, is performed by specially trained attendants who move silently through the library, trimming wicks, refilling oil, and adjusting flames to provide optimal illumination for scholarly work. Their dedication, invisible but essential, makes possible the uninterrupted pursuit of learning that characterizes the library's nighttime hours. As you move through the lamplit corridors, you notice how the evening brings out different aspects of the library's architectural beauty. The geometric patterns carved into stone walls, barely visible in bright daylight, seem to come alive in the warm amber glow of oil flames, their shadows creating constantly shifting designs that add visual interest to the scholarly environment. The muqarnas, those honeycomb-like decorative elements that crown the library's arches and doorways, take on new complexity in lamplight. Their multiple faceted surfaces catching and reflecting flame light in ways that create the illusion of movement and depth. This interplay of light and shadow, architecture and illumination, transforms the library into a space of visual as well as intellectual beauty. The marble floors, cool and smooth beneath your bare feet, reflect the lamplight in subtle patterns that guide your movement through the library's various sections. The reflection, soft and diffused rather than harsh or glaring, adds to the overall sense of warmth and welcome that characterizes the nighttime library. You find yourself in a quiet alcove where a single scholar works alone on what appears to be a translation project of exceptional difficulty. Multiple manuscripts, written in different languages and scripts, cover his work table, while his own careful notes reveal the painstaking process of rendering complex ideas from one linguistic and cultural context into another. The translator, a master of Greek, Arabic, Persian, and Sanskrit, represents the cosmopolitan character of Islamic scholarship at its height. His work, bridging different intellectual traditions and making knowledge accessible across cultural boundaries, embodies the Islamic civilization's commitment to learning from all available sources of wisdom and understanding. His approach to translation, careful and scholarly rather than merely mechanical, involves deep understanding of both the original text and the cultural context into which it will be rendered. His marginal notes, filled with alternative renderings and explanatory comments, show the thoughtful consideration he brings to every phrase and concept. The manuscripts he works with, some showing signs of great age and extensive use, represent the international character of the library's collection. Greek philosophical texts, Indian mathematical treatises, Persian mystical poetry all find their place in this comprehensive repository of human knowledge. The oil lamp illuminating his workspace, positioned to provide perfect lighting for detailed textual work, casts its warm glow over this scene of cross-cultural intellectual exchange. The translator's concentration, evident in his careful posture and focused attention, reflects the demanding nature of work that requires not only linguistic skill, but also deep cultural sensitivity and scholarly judgment. As the night progresses toward its deepest hours, you become aware of the profound silence that has settled over the library. The last sounds of evening activity, scholars retiring to their quarters, attendants completing their final rounds, have faded into complete quiet, leaving only the gentle soundtrack of burning lamps and turning pages. This deep night silence, far from being empty or lifeless, seems pregnant with intellectual energy and spiritual potential. The library, in these quiet hours, becomes a space where individual consciousness can expand and explore the deepest questions of existence without distraction or interruption. You find yourself drawn to one of the library's small meditation rooms, spaces specifically designed for contemplative study and spiritual reflection. Here, a single oil lamp, its flame protected by a crystal chimney that focuses and purifies its light, illuminates a simple reading stand holding a manuscript of mystical poetry. The room, furnished only with prayer carpets and simple cushions, creates an environment stripped of all unnecessary elements, focused entirely on the encounter between human consciousness and divine truth. The walls, painted in soft earth tones that promote tranquility and concentration, seem to absorb and hold the lamp's warm radiance, creating an atmosphere of profound peace. Settling onto one of the silk cushions, you feel yourself naturally assuming the posture of contemplative reading that has been practiced in this room by countless seekers over the years. The manuscript before you, opened to verses about the soul's journey toward divine union, seems to glow with spiritual significance in the intimate lighting. The poetry, written in the flowing Nastaliq script that transforms words into visual music, speaks of experiences that transcend ordinary understanding, yet resonate with universal human longings for meaning and connection. Each verse, carefully copied by scribes who were themselves followers of the mystical path, carries within it the accumulated spiritual wisdom of generations of seekers. As you read, allowing the verses to penetrate your consciousness like water soaking into dry earth, you feel your breathing slow and deepen, your mind settle into the peaceful rhythm that characterizes true spiritual receptivity. The lamp flame, steady and unwavering, seems to mirror the inner light that spiritual practice seeks to kindle and maintain. The night continues its gentle passage, and you become aware of the library as a living organism, breathing with the rhythm of scholarly inquiry, pulsing with the energy of minds engaged in the eternal human quest for knowledge and understanding. The building, far from being merely a container for books, has become a sacred space where human consciousness encounters the accumulated wisdom of ages. The oil lamps, burning steadily throughout the night, represent more than mere illumination. They symbolize the undying human commitment to pushing back the darkness of ignorance, to maintaining the light of knowledge and understanding, even in the face of overwhelming challenges and obstacles. As you continue your nighttime exploration of the library, you encounter scholars who have chosen to spend the entire night in study and contemplation. These dedicated seekers, working by lamplight while the rest of the world sleeps, represent the highest level of commitment to learning and intellectual growth. Their dedication, evident in their willingness to sacrifice comfort and rest in pursuit of knowledge, reflects the Islamic tradition's understanding that true scholarship requires not just intelligence, but also perseverance, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Their presence, quiet but profound, adds depth and intensity to the library's nighttime atmosphere. The deepest hours of night approach, and you find yourself in the library's central reading room, where a single great lamp, suspended from the dome's center, illuminates the space with golden radiance that seems to emanate from heaven itself. This lamp, larger and more elaborate than those used in other sections, burns the finest oil available, its flame protected by a crystal shade that focuses and purifies its light. The room, designed according to principles of sacred geometry that create perfect acoustic and visual harmony, seems to pulse with spiritual energy in the lamp's warm glow. The circular arrangement of reading desks, positioned at calculated distances from the central light source, creates an environment where individual study occurs within a greater unity of purpose and atmosphere. Scholars seated at these desks, each absorbed in their particular quest for understanding, contribute to a collective enterprise that transcends individual accomplishment. Their silent concentration, their careful attention to texts, their occasional moments of insight and discovery, all combine to create an atmosphere of intellectual communion that represents the highest achievement of human civilization. As you observe this scene of nighttime scholarship, you feel yourself becoming part of the eternal human conversation about truth, beauty, meaning, and the ultimate purposes of existence. The library, in these quiet hours, reveals itself as more than a repository of information. It becomes a sacred space where human consciousness encounters the divine source of all knowledge and understanding. The great lamp above, its flame dancing gently in the moving air, seems to symbolize the divine light that illuminates all true learning, the spiritual radiance that transforms mere information into wisdom, mere knowledge into understanding, mere study into communion with ultimate reality. Your breathing slows, your consciousness settles into the same peaceful rhythm that governs this sacred space, and you feel yourself embraced by the timeless wisdom that surrounds you. The scholars continue their quiet work. The oil lamps burn with steady devotion, and the library maintains its eternal vigil in service of human learning and spiritual growth. The night reaches its deepest hour, that mysterious time when the veil between worlds grows thin and the boundaries between knowledge and wisdom, between study and prayer, between human effort and divine grace seem to dissolve in the warm golden radiance of lamplight and the profound silence of scholarly devotion. And as the great lamp continues its gentle illumination, as the scholars pursue their eternal quest for understanding, as the library maintains its sacred mission of preserving and transmitting the treasures of human wisdom, you feel your eyelids growing heavy, your mind settling into perfect harmony with this temple of learning, and you drift peacefully into the deepest, most restful sleep, cradled in the gentle embrace of eternal knowledge, surrounded by the warm glow of wisdom's own light, at peace in the sacred silence of the great library of Baghdad.